Hi. So, yeah, I have a YouTube video up because I feel as though there might be a lot of pauses in this one, and I keep on getting suggested these guys along with some other ones. So let me show you what I'm at right at the moment. I've got Python main.py that launches my virtual environment with Comfyui inside of it. And over here, you can see that I have 167 gigabytes on my D drive just for Comfyui. Now, I don't need that space, but when I installed Comfyui in the beginning, I was no clue at all what I was doing. Now I have a little bit more of an idea, but I still don't have a clue, really. So if I just take this over here, take the string that is given to you over here, the address, you place it in and it runs. I had a manager here on the screen and I followed the instructions, and now my manager is gone and I have no idea where to get it back. Also, it says comfy cute, and I don't know how I got that or when that happened, and instead of just trying to redo it and fix it and add more things to this and possibly break it more, I'm just going to delete it and then start again. Excuse me. So you might see me doing a bit of ChatGPT to guide me through some of this, but yeah, that's what we're going to do now. So 167, 168 gigabytes, and here we go. Now that's a lot of models and downloads and everything like that, but that's what I want to give it a go. Or I want to clean it all up. Oh, okay. Oh, I should probably close this. Yes, permanent delete. Oh, I saved a bunch of workflows to my desktop, so maybe we can get a head start from where we were before. But there was a couple of ones that I was looking at doing. So I wanted to do a dense polls, and this guy had a portable version of Comfyui, and I thought, oh, portable version, maybe that's good. Then this guy was doing some cool actual quality movement. What I found funny on this video, actually,
the stable diffusion animation said bye-bye to the old flickering control net stitching image method. We are talking about the smoothness, sharpness, and realism character movement.
Did you notice? Over here, this guy, he's obviously using DID Studio or something like that.
And animate diff
but
allow us to make better and better.
It's like, did a perfect job on this, I think. Oh, actually, that one looks great. These are obviously.
And IP adapter help us to enhance the style from LCM model images. Let's check out the last update of this animate diff LCM animation workflow.
So yeah, I'm going to do that possibly after all of this installation. So I installed Pinokio today, and Pinokio sucked for me, and I was investigating an issue. And while investigating the issue, I saw that somebody pointed out that on Windows 11 it will not work on certain things, and that an employee or working with Pinokio, probably can't find it, Windows 11 issue with Pinokio computer. Somebody in one of the comment sections, I think in here, said that like was an insider. Pinokio install starts open, not responding, tried running. Well, it was like an employee working with them said something about like people on Windows are wasting their time. I am now. Yeah, anywho, it's a pain in the ass. This is only from a few weeks ago, and the terrible thing about it is that Pinokio is such a cool idea. One click and install. It's not one click, it's usually just repetitively clicking install and whatever, and then it works. But I didn't do a recording of it not working, because obviously it wasn't working. So I'm going to find latest version of Comfy UI. And I might spend a little time investigating this because I'm not entirely sure myself. So this should be it, right? You can install Comfy UI in Apple Mac. I swear to fucking God, if I see another thing referring to Macintoshes and how well they're supported versus Windows, I'm going to lose my bloody mind. It's beginning to drive me cracked. How to install Comfy UI, Diffusion, Stable Diffusion Art. Yeah. What's new from the latest? So, latest official version of Comfy UI. This seems to be the main one. Okay. Comfy UI standalone portable Windows build for NVIDIA and or CPU only. So I'm in NVIDIA, so that should be pretty good. Download the unstable nightly PyTorch. No, thank you. The builds in this release will always be relatively up to date with the latest code. These builds should be completely standalone. If you extract and run them, they should work right away and won't download anything. March 13th, 2013. Issues 1000. So that's... I'm beginning to look at the issues first for everything nowadays. Especially since I'm using Windows. I can't explain enough how much of a pain in the ass it has been working with a Windows environment with all this latest AI stuff. Every time I want to do a new video, and it's hard enough trying to do a video every day, but like I noticed that it's good to do shorts, and it'd be good to do some like intelligent shorts showing off some cool little tech and hey, look at this little feature and look at that little one. But then when you spend 3 to 4 hours playing around with the back end trying to get something to work, like I ended up getting with Pinokio, for example, Baklava, which is like it streams video to a llama model in the back end and then reads what it sees on screen, or reads what it sees from the USB camera. Bloody cool. I like it. I actually did something similar myself last year with ChatGPT, where I would stream video to it and have it be described. I can't remember even how I did it. Might have been using Lava, LLAVA. I can't remember. Or no, I was using Clip, and I was using Prismer. Yeah, this thing. Now this is over a year old. I think this is one. Vision model. And I found it very cool. Oh, no issues, no wonder. It's back in the day when things were working well. And I gave all this information over to ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT would then output it to the screen. Now it's probably going to be working even better nowadays, due to the fact that add official HF space demo. Oh, I don't know what that means. Uses Cocoa. Anyway, this was very cool for me, but just like a lot of things that I'm doing, either people are not that interested, or they haven't got a clue, or the term AI bros is really beginning to kick in, and people beginning to hate them. And I guess some people are trying to connect them up to NFT bros, I think, and blockchain and Bitcoin bros. I don't know, but I don't think of it like that. I just think of it as the latest cool tech that is around, and I'm always interested in the latest tech. So let's see. I'm not used to using Hugging Face as much as I should be. So a powerful modular stable diffusion GUI and backend. YAML warning: empty or missing YAML metadata in repo. Okay. feel as though it's going to the same place as the other one. But yeah, just as I said, I'll be doing a bit of reading, and normally when I do a bit of reading, I'm quite happy to be listening to something, and I hope that nobody is offended if I'm not talking online. Oh, where's my sound?
Western culture. So
We were just having such a good time firing all the Valley girls from Silicon Valley.
yes, but we need to bear the whole in mind. So basically,
Just
it's
to be clear, I don't like this guy straight away, and probably this guy.
seems to me that Western politics at the moment is completely self-destructive.
Yeah.
And
Western politics is completely self-destructive. That's a bit like, if it were completely self-destructive, then it would be destructive already. 22 seconds in, I'm just.
I think that people are noticing, but a lot of people are afraid to say so. And the question is whether they will admit it when it's too late or not. So that's a really big question that I ponder about, and I don't know if I'm optimistic about it or not. I'm a natural optimist, but on this,
Yeah.
I don't know. My instinct
Really?
says that it's an issue. So basically, I want to
Okay.
say that wokeness is weakness. It's a symptom of decline, and the global order is declining for some
Does he sound like he's an optimist to you?
time now. We have the emergence of a multipolar world, and this means that we are in front of a tragic situation. We will have rise in wars, a rise in
Oh my god, yeah, here I am trying to install Comfyui, and I'm just getting irritated by this guy. I'm still gonna listen to all of it, because echo chamber and stuff like that, you don't want to be in one. So latest official version, I don't want to go to the other place. How to install Comfyui on Windows and Linux, easy with AI. Here we go. Where should I, okay. Stop responding. Yeah, it's responding at all. Hello, this is Bing. Yeah, okay. Latest version. Oh, March 12th, okay.
ethnic conflicts, and also a really weird movement in the West that says we should be more sensitive and less war averse and less whatever.
Yeah.
So basically, it seems to me that we are looking forward to a really bad century
That's what I
where
want.
there's going to be lots of warfare.
want to put
And
Comfyui
the
into
sooner
Blender.
we wake up into that reality, the better able we will be to defend ourselves. Now, speaking of warfare, you can check out our website for the latest symposium number 53, The Art
Excuse
of
me?
Whatever.
Speaking.
So basically, it seems to me that we are looking forward to a really bad century where there's going to be lots of warfare. And the sooner we wake up into that reality, the better able we will be to defend ourselves. Now, speaking of warfare,
So, on the one hand, he doesn't like woke culture and thinks that we should be preparing for warfare. So, we should just all be doing, be one military mind, and just keep that in mind that we're just going to go to war all the time. Okay.
you can check out our website for the latest symposium number 53, The Art of War, that Carl Josh and myself,
Okay. I love the art of war.
Carl Josh and I discussed about Sun Tzu's text and The Art of War. And just remember that with £5 a month, you can gain access to all our premium content. So I think that's a good deal. Check it out.
Hi folks, we've rolled out a new feature on the website, which is the ability to pay for an individual piece of content. So usually it's £5 a month.
All of them, there are many, but we're going to make a tour and show that essentially what is being going on is that the weakness of the Western camp has contributed to the West losing the role of an exemplar. So when you have a superpower that basically is the global hegemon, people look up to it, not necessarily because they respect the culture behind it, but people respect power. And if a particular culture,
It's proper like Ooga Booga Bray, but it is true. It's like there's a reason he's in charge.
Yeah,
I
it's
gotta
like-
find out what that is.
It's also like, remember the movies with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro where they say, everyone respects the badge.
Yeah. Like I'm an orc who's just like
Yeah.
the biggest. He's
So, exactly. So when you have powerful players, people look up to them, if not for any other reason because they're powerful. But when this power is declining, a lot of people throughout the world, especially the non-Western world, are not going to look upon the, let's say, the current woke West with a multiplicity of genders and all this stuff. They're going to look to their past and their history, and they're trying to dig up their insights from how to live there. So this means that with illegal migration, we are going to have a West of people who are going to be in favor of wokeness or not, but a weak West, and a lot of people in the non-Westerners who migrate to the West who are going to be essentially more vocal about them being anti-Western. Let's just look at the next clip here from Times Square, New York City. We can have some. Let me just say this. Let me just put it here.
That's not particularly nice, is it?
Can we just talk about the iconography there of doing that in front of a massive American flag? And all of the adverts of capitalism behind it. So they love living in America, they love taking advantage of everything that America provides, and they just really love the freedom they have.
Okay. I know where he's going with this so far, and it's not like I disagree with him. I think that I would rephrase what I think he's going to say is that, like, you know, America has the freedom to be allowed to have these protests, whereas if they were in their other countries, they wouldn't be able to protest what's happening over there. But it's more about, I guess I just don't like this guy's face. Not a good argument, I know.
To go, no, I hate this country. It's like, no, you don't. You love this country. That's why you live there. That's why you wear all the things you do, you buy all the things you buy, you work in the place you work. This is all, again, an aesthetic to you.
Can we talk about the specifics of this particular protest? That is hilarious. Because, of course, they're there with Palestinian flags.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I am
And
my
seeing
daughter.
foreigners obsess over Palestine when they don't know where it is, that's sort of normal at this point. It's kind of the background radiation of immigration. But Yemen...
I mean, they don't know what that is. They don't know what that is. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I know that meme is a meme at this point where someone's like, I'm sick of being an expert on Israel, I'm going to be an expert on Yemen. But it's so true. When you see these people, it's like, come on. None of you know where Yemen is.
Yes, and I want to say that this shows a cultural myopia on the part of people on the West, especially the progressive and globalist side. They are constantly trying to interpret everything through concepts that have been used and extracted from Western history. So, for instance, we constantly listen to them, talking about fascism, anti-fascism, communism, all kinds of isms coming from Western history, and they are neglecting the fact that we are not talking about the Western
These are the consequences of having a
world.
bad
So
stream.
the same categories do not apply in the same way.
But also, you arrest a single one of these for protesting, they're screaming about human rights. Yeah. It's like, sorry, how do human rights hold up in Palestine or Yemen?
Well, it's human rights for some people.
Yes.
Not human rights for other people. It's
not human rights for the slaves of the Yemenis.
Yeah, so calling for the demise of the countries that host illegal migrants has basically become the norm in the West. Let's see this thing from here. We have the... listen to what they're chanting. No, I want to expose you to the torture. Well,
Native British culture.
why
are these people here?
Yeah, but just observe the difference and how the left treats it. They constantly talk about bad Western tribalism, but generally speaking, they don't think that such behavior doesn't show any tribalistic, has no tribalistic aspect into it.
Yeah.
But I want to show you this video. I'll have it playing here on mute, and
It's Birmingham.
I think so. It says it's basically it's the UK. We'll let it play, and we'll just say several things. So it seems to me that it's very important to understand how the...
I need to censor that. Guy getting beaten up with a stick, just...
YouTube probably requires.
Let's
So
okay.
this should just work
Let me
for
finish.
us if we just
Okay. Okay,
extract
so what I want to say is that it seems to me that illegal migration for the left right now is what, in a sense, the proletarian worker was in the 1850s.
Yep.
Essentially, for the left, there are two kinds of people. There are supporters and those who do not support them. Their supporters can only do good. They have zero responsibility for anything bad. And if they're caught in anything bad, it's
Really very
it's the
important,
system's failure.
Yep.
It's the system's problem. And when it comes to
How to run. If you have an NVIDIA GPU, run, yes, I gathered that part. If you have a red error in the UI, make sure you have a model checkpoint in Comfyui. Yep. You can download the Stable Diffusion 1.5 one from here. Okay, let's just start that now. Although, what was the other thing we were looking at a minute ago? Stable Diffusion. Okay, I don't know. This is why I run into issues, just kind of rushing ahead and doing things. So I should be able to just download this from, if I click on files or something like that. Is it here? Oh, just download. It's always the biggest issue is finding out these things. I think we can just put it in here. Let's give it a go. Where were we with that README file? To update the Comfyui code, update Comfyui.bat. I like that. That's what I was just trying to do before. So where is that? Recommended way to update. So Comfyui, and then there should be an update. No. Oh, update Comfyui.bat. Nice. I like. To update Comfyui with the Python dependencies, note that you should only run this if you have issues with Python dependencies. Okay. To share models between Comfyui and another UI. Okay. Cool. Well, we will wait for the Stable Diffusion 1.5 to be downloaded, and then I'll run the Comfyui.bat, and then we will look into working with some of those other workflows. I think this is a lot easier than what I did with last time.
those who do not support them, it is always bad things that they're responsible for. And to the extent that they do good things, they only do it because they are not going to get away with it. So now the left has lost, in a sense, the native working class of the population of Western countries, and they want the mix, a different mix of the population. That is why they're so much in favor of illegal migration, and they constantly push forward that agenda. And if you look at it, structurally speaking, it is the same. When you're talking about the groups that they are claiming to protect, the groups whose characteristics are protected within quotation marks and stuff, they literally portray them as people who cannot do wrong. Anything bad they do, it's internalized whiteness, internalized Westerners, things like that. And frankly, it gets a bit...
When I wasn't Suella Braverman, but that other trollop from the UK government who was the daughter of immigrants wanted to drown the boats, or the people in the boats at sea in the English Channel, trying to get over to the UK. The issue people had with that was the fact that you are, well, being a horrible person, a horrible country, is that the rules that the UK made, or the rules that the world made regarding immigration, was actually created by the UK and the USA. You're supposed to process the people when they land and then send them back if they're not in deep trouble. You cannot just assume that they're guilty before they get there. People protesting here are being like a gang going around, jumping around like gobshites. They look like they grew up in the UK.
boring, but if it weren't that dangerous, we would just say. Anyway, we have here. Should we also?
Depends if anyone dies or gets seriously injured.
No one dies or gets injured. Here we have
Chicken shop in London.
machete fighting. Someone uses chairs are used like shields as well as spears that are hurled towards the opponent. Anyway, this is London in 2024. Right, we have here Milan. Again, chair fighting. Yeah.
It's a ancient art, truly one that
Yeah.
is rich.
Anyway, we have all sorts of.
I wonder what they're fighting over.
Yeah.
Like, what is the grievance on either side, you know?
We'll get there in a moment, but I don't know. Was anger expressed this way? I mean, don't get me wrong.
I'm from Ireland, yes. Anger is generally expressed.
Yeah, I
0%.
was gonna say fewer.
Yeah.
Okay, so let us go to Ireland now and talk about the Irish police is now physically attacking
Gardaí, thank you very much.
native Irish people who oppose the forced settlement of 160 asylum seekers in the only hotel in Roscrea, a small Irish town. Unworthy scenes. Now, I want to say that several sources cite different numbers, but the issue here is that we see a kind of brutality.
Sorry, you can only imagine what's going through the policeman's head. It's like, no, it's an immigrant hotel now, Irishman. Ow.
So basically, I want to show you here from the Irish Independent, Racket Hall Hotel protest, child asylum seekers upset at clashes following standoff with the Gardaí, says minister.
A bus full of 6-year-olds were crying, were they?
Well,
Are we really meant to believe that? It's just...
well,
6-year-olds are standing outside with their beer and their fags going,
essentially, this is what
Their teddy was dropped underground.
this is essentially what the Minister of Immigration and Integration was saying, and
People had been protesting since last Thursday after it was announced that Racket Hall Hotel was to be used as an accommodation centre. Gardaí Public Order Unit deployed on Monday and cordon formed as bus driven in.
you know, let's see what happened here a bit. People had been protesting since last Thursday after it was announced that Racket Hall Hotel was to be used as an accommodation center. And there was a public order unit deployed on Monday and cordon formed as bus drove in. So we have here an integration minister called Roderick O'Gorman who said that child asylum seekers were upset at scenes of protesters clashing with the police as they were moved into an accommodation center in Tipperary.
this child is crying. Don't you want to pay billions for illegal immigrants?
Why does this child need billions?
Well, there are many children. It's not just one child.
Well, it says here more than 200 people endured sub-zero temperatures overnight and vowed to maintain their protest against the placement of up to 160 asylum seekers in the town's only hotel. The decision to bring the 17 men, women and children into the property has sparked a 5-day round-the-clock protest outside Racket Hall. So essentially, we see here again, Ireland again is being hit by...
But this is extreme because I mean this, you know when you hear someone who's very anti-cop and they'll say something like, "The police won't stop and not do a Holocaust." Well, in this case, we see the police, the Irish police, will literally, in this case, replace the locals by force. They will literally force you out of the way from trying to stop them doing it, and don't care.
It's not even they don't care. They think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, like your point's fantastic. I'd love to get into the mind of the police officers doing this. I mean, how can you not immediately just be like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go be an accountant or something because this
Guy's not even for diversity. Whack.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd stick around.
Well, they pathologize him as racist.
Yeah, and you will see that the notion of the far right is constantly being weaponized and constantly being brought about by the Irish officials. So he said, "My understanding is from talking to my officials that they are settling in, but it was a difficult enough experience. Children were upset at seeing the scuffles, experiencing the violent tension as they arrived," he said. He is the Minister of Integration. And he also said, he added, "I think we also recognize there are people who are traveling around the country, far-right activists who are looking to stir up anti-immigrant sentiment." You see, sorry, I'm just fed up with the constant appeal to sentiment. You know, there is some people who are upset. Well, there are a lot of people who are upset with
Yeah.
mass migration and its bad effects. Don't they
Yeah.
count?
No. Because the only true citizens are the activists, the immigrants who have arrived.
Okay. First of all, I'm hating these guys. But second of all, they're reading the article showing the violence and showing the Gardaí doing what the Gardaí were told to do and like the article says it was protecting children, and Ireland is a country of immigrants, and we have a certain number of immigrants that we take in every year, and I am an immigrant to New Zealand, now Australia. I lived in Austria, and maybe people in Ireland don't like that. I know for a fact that there are, but there's nothing to say here, any proof of what they're talking about. I once had a friend of mine say to me that he wants immigration to increase in Ireland, so we'd have an awful lot less people, less freckles, because we haven't got that much genetic diversity. I'm all for genetic diversity. These guys are dicks. I don't like them.
Yeah. But the native Irish, well, I mean, you know, for the for the colonial empire that Ireland once endured. No, wait. No, that is correct. I meant to say once ran, the Irish being punished. Of course, that didn't happen. But this is the same excuse you see everywhere. I've seen people say that, oh, the Irish can't complain about immigration considering how many Irishmen immigrated. It's like, yeah,
Wait, what famine are you going through exactly?
yeah, it's not the same, is it? Ireland isn't the vast untamed wildernesses of America, for example. Anyway.
Untamed. You're talking about all the Native American Indians that got killed over there.
But I want to say that the word far right is constantly used, and let us just remember the Minister of Justice, Helen McEntee, who constantly talks about the far right, talking about it, because if you remember, Ireland has passed a hate speech bill, constantly talks about it inflates how many characteristics stand as protected, and constantly says that a lot of instances of speech count as hate speech, and constantly they refer to the far right. But someone asked her to define what she means. Let us just look at what she
Could
said.
you give me a definition of what you consider is the far right? In terms of a definition of the far right, I mean, it's obviously a political ideology, or it's a particular view that a person has. I'm not sure there is a definition. It's not. So it's a little bit like hate.
It's
Well,
a little bit
yeah.
like
So
woke.
can we get?
it's
So I
not
think we need to define
Senator,
what it is.
you have a limited amount of time. If you interrupt the minister,
Okay.
you're going to run out of time. So just let
Okay.
her answer the question.
Thank you. I think what we see from a lot of people who would claim to be far right, which is not a crime for somebody to have a particular ideology, it's where they act on maybe certain matters, but we have seen people to be anti-government, anti-state, anti-immigration, anti-women's rights, amongst other things. That would be my own particular view of those who would claim to be far right.
So basically, she's a minister of justice in a government that constantly weaponizes the media to spread the message that the far right is rising. And she.
Okay, so I currently have no manager here either. So I saw another video at Comfy Manager UI. And this guy installs it. So let's try that. Let's see what we get. I'm gonna close this down. Yes. Just turn that off. And I guess I can listen to him for a few minutes.
The last stuff that I want to explain to you is to how to install Comfyui Manager. To install that tool, you have to go to Comfyui Manager GitHub page, which I will provide you in the description. Normally, the way to install it, you can, the easiest one, you can download this bat file, okay, and put in Comfyui Windows Portable folder, okay, and then run the file just like this. You can right click and save as, okay, and put it.
I bet you there. I know I should have just been looking at what he did. Installation method 2. I like the easiest way to do it, and I just did a GitHub pull on that, so it doesn't matter if I end up deleting what I just did. So I'll just delete that for now. And he went to github.com, the same place that I was, but version 2. I will do that. What? Download scripts install manager. Yes, that's what I was trying to do. Installation method 2. Do it again. Download
Files just like this. You can right click and save as, okay, and put in your Comfyui Portable folder, okay, and just save the file, okay, and go to that folder and run install
manager. Yeah. So it's not just a simple thingy. I have to type in all that kind of stuff. Download scripts manager for portable version bat. Comfyui portable. This is Git. Yeah, I already have Git. Windows default downloads install into install Comfyui portable directory. Right there. This is not downloading. This just opens up this. Why is it that? Nah, I'm just gonna do this one. This looks like it's an easier one to do. And I assume that you should go into Comfyui Manager and then run everything in here, like requirements.txt. There's a readme. Let's read the readme. That's just where we were. Okay, let's just go back and try and run the bat file from the actual folder. Oh, it is installing more stuff. So hopefully, yay, the manager's there. Sweet. Okay, nice one. Got it back. Let's go listen to these scumbags. Oh, sorry, people.
Can't even define it.
Yeah.
And she says, she even said at some point the far right is anti-government.
Yeah, based. Anyway, she makes the far right sound brilliant. The far right are a sensible position, according to her definition there.
And I'm
This extension offers various detector nodes and detailer nodes. Oh, there. If I get rid of install models. Okay, I got those models, and there's a lot of feckin' models to download. Looks like I did that one right. There's SD2. take the smaller one. And then there's, oh, waifu. SD 2.1. Control net. I know I need those kinds of things. Okay, so is the model being installed as we speak?
I'm sure if we look into the history of the concept, the far right was very much anti-government.
Well, no. The far right does not mean Nazi or fascist, because she would, of course, not be in any way shy of being like the Nazis and fascists. You know, there is no way on earth some lefty liberal type is going to be like, well, I don't want to accuse someone of being fascist. No, it's just not accurate, and she knows it's not accurate. That's the thing. So, what the far right? They are anti-government, anti-immigration, anti-feminism. Right, so they're normal people. Got it. Right, that's it. Normals.
Anti-government. Okay, let me just.
That's the thing. So, what the far right? They are anti-government, anti-immigration, anti-feminism. Right.
I don't. Okay, I think anti-government is just basically an anarchist. Anti-immigration is a nationalist, so that does fit in with Nazi. But they were pretty good on, like, are pretty into their government. And anti-feminism, well, it depends on what your definition of feminism is. So, not making an argument against or for him there.
Right, so they're normal people. Got it.
I see where he's coming from.
Normals. Non-political, normal people who are like, why are you screwing with all of this?
And
that's what
I don't agree with
I
him.
want to end with
Or disagree
Yuval
with him.
Noah Harari talking about Trump and as being the final death blow to the world order. And also, I want you to pay close attention at what he says about a false dilemma somewhere.
Are you concerned that Trump might be elected again? Shortly?
I think it's very likely. And if it happens, it is likely to be the kind of like the death blow to what remains of the global order. And he says it openly. Now again, it should be clear that many of these politicians, they present a false dichotomy, a false binary vision of the world, as if you have to choose between patriotism and globalism, between being loyal to your nation and being loyal to some kind of, I don't know, global government or whatever.
Are you concerned that Trump might be elected again?
That's good.
It's only because it keeps happening. Like, you must take these foreign terrorists and you can't deport them because of global reasons.
Why do you think that they are foreign terrorists? If they were terrorists, then they wouldn't be allowed in. You have to have a check beforehand. So you would need government to be able to check that, but you're anti-government. So you're just all about isolationism. Now, if I'm not wrong, he's not from this country, or that country, if it's the UK that this is coming from.
Well, no. I'm going to side with the patriots and say, get out.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a dichotomy.
Hang on a second. Are you loyal to your country and not the WEF?
But what does he mean? Like, how could you be a patriot but also be like, yes, of course, God praise the UN, so I will take 1 billion Africans, so of course.
But
Like,
you can be just as patriotic towards your country as the global government that is destroying your country.
But there's also another issue here. I am definitely someone who is always skeptic of the way dilemmas are presented.
Yeah.
But this isn't a mistaken dilemma.
No, this is not false. I don't even know how you would reconcile the two.
There can be no globalist patriotism. Sorry, there can be
Oh, no,
no globalist patriotism.
You could be patriotic.
Independence Day. Aliens come to the Earth. Planetary patriotism. Star Trek. I don't know. No. You two are from 2 different countries. 3, I should say, are from 2 different countries at least. There seems to be some form of unity there. I don't know.
For a globalist government.
Yeah.
But that would put you in contradiction to being patriotic for a nationalist government.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway, it seems to me that this also shows the communication of a message to the general public that you don't have to take sides. Not even in one side is your own country.
Yeah, okay, let me change that. You have to take sides with us. End of story. But what I love about this is that, I think it's very likely Trump's going to win. I also think it's very likely that the current liberal global order will be destroyed. Brilliant. What a fantastic and ringing endorsement of Trump. Like everyone else off the ballot now, sorry, it's just Trump, and it's Trump all the way down. Sorry. Noah Yuval Harari has made a great point about Trump. Go vote for him. He's going to ruin the web.
Right. And
sorry, I think it's brilliant.
If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as Lads Hour, this episode on IMDb's Top 250. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow it on Twitter.
I'd rather not listen to you guys ever again, Lotus Eaters. Okay, she finally gets it. Oh my god, this guy keeps on coming up on my feed, and now I have to say something that's interesting. Reality checks Republicans are still really racist. Yeah, let's see.
What do people say gives them, like, oh, I can't vote for him because, what are the things that they tell you? What answers can I help you provide?
I can get you a drink.
Or just
Well, the only one I've had, and I don't even couldn't even remember who said that to me, but they mentioned about it's skin, you know, and they think right away. Yeah. So I kind of set them straight on whether they believe I thought I was covering for it. I don't know, but and I thought
fair, not much we can do about that one.
well, yeah, you know, so yeah.
You just watched an Iowa Republican voter explain to Vivek Ramaswamy's wife, Apoorva, that one of the biggest reasons one of her peers told her that they refused to support Vivek was because of his dark skin and suspicion that he may be a Muslim. Yeah. Now, this conversation took place recently, which means that Vivek's attempt to ingratiate himself with white supremacists in the Republican Party has failed, predictably so.
I don't know if you're... This is really good. Venom sour cherry. Ooh. Oh. Ooh. Very nice. Not too strong on alcohol. Light and tart with a touch of cherry sweetness. Venom cherry sour, a rich red colour, wheat and ale malts combined with just a touch of fruity hops, making Venom cherry sour. This is yummy. I wonder how many I could have. Ooh, very nice. Okay. So we obviously listen to right-wing people. This guy is a left-wing person. See if I have enough to disagree with him, but he did just point out that people in Iowa just said they wouldn't vote for him, for the guy in the back here, for being dark-skinned. Comfyui is already up to date with the latest version. Sweet. That's good to know. So, watch. I clicked on Manager Workflow Gallery. Ooh. Open Art AI. That's trippy how it's doing that. Community Manual, Nodes Info. Install missing... that did say it, right? Install missing custom nodes. I would like install missing models. Close. So we should be getting all of these. Comfyui Essentials. It's kind of sucky that I can only click on one of these at a time. Okay, and then that some of them are seemingly conflicting with others. Using an outdated version has resulted in reported issues with updates not being applied. Trying to reinstall software is advised. To apply the installed update, click restart. Okay. And we should see that on the right. And now I have another one open over here for the manager. This one over here. I like this guy, but I don't think I can listen to all of it. Loading the graph, the following node types. Okay, yeah, so that's other stuff we're missing. Did install a lot faster with the custom nodes. So maybe I should go from 1. Segs and mass has been renamed to impact segs and mass. Please replace the node with the new name. Impact segs and mask. I don't know anything about that. And I don't know if I should be restarting each time, but I'm going to. Queue size area. If I go into File Explorer and check this BC, wow, 563 gigabytes. I really did clean up a lot.
And at that same event, his wife faced even more questions about their religion. Let's watch.
So you had a question about religion? Yes. Our faith, yes. So we do not come from kind of the traditional background for most presidential candidates. We are Hindus. Yes, in a lot of ways, I think for a lot of people for whom religion is important, and we care a lot about God and our relationship to God. So I understand when people hear that we're Hindu, you want to know, like, what does that mean? Who are you? What do you stand for? So our religion teaches us that all of us have been put here by God for a purpose. And everyone has been given a gift, some gifts by God, and it's our job to use those gifts to the best of our abilities while we are here on this earth. And so that is, in a lot of ways, why we are doing this.
Honestly, bless her heart, the patience that she has is truly admirable. She's much more likable than Vivek, and I think she seems like a genuine person aside from the fact that she's married to a fascist like him. But I really do hate that they feel like they're forced to coddle white supremacists in the Republican Party to be barely viable. But I mean, they unfortunately kind of have to do that. They have to cater to the sensibilities of dumb fuck racists if they want to be members of this party. But one thing that they don't understand seemingly about these white evangelicals is that they're not looking for mere similarities between religious values, right? They want you to disavow your religion entirely and become Christian.
So some of that is cleaning up. Well, based on the fact that he didn't like the skin color, even if you did become a Christian, they wouldn't have liked him. Install custom nodes. Install this one. That was quick. Restart. Oh, hello.
Full stop.
Whoever's watching.
And even then, they still might not support you because you're not white. It's just the lost cause. But I mean, accepting Jesus as the Son of God is step number 1 in their eyes. Now, Vivek himself has been asked about this specific question on the campaign trail numerous times, and
halfway through installing Comfyui, or reinstalling it, just in case you popped on, and just listening to the stuff while I wait for the downloads to occur. It was just after listening to a right-wing podcast, and well, they got offended when they were called right-wing, but this guy is a left-wing, so I don't know what to say. This, you know, it's America, it's the UK, whatever.
here's how it went in one instance.
So, to be very honest, it's not a hard question at all. So
by the way,
our faith tradition,
this, I don't know if you drink or anything like that, but this is really
I know that is different than saying he's the Son of God. But that is my view of Jesus Christ. He's got our family. Do we worship in churches? Yes, we do. Is that compatible with our faith? Yes, it is. One true God in many forms. So that's different, and I understand that.
Yeah, it is different. The only way to heaven is through Jesus Christ.
I think that is the path. That is a path to heaven, is the way we look at it. But belief in God is what we say. Belief in the one true God. That's the way I look at it.
I mean, this is why I say it's a lost cause. The modern Republican Party is simply too racist and too deep in that Christian nationalism bubble to vote for someone like him. And to make matters worse, it's not just racism and Islamophobia that he's dealing with, even though he's not a Muslim. It's xenophobia as well, since GOP voters perceive him and his wife to be immigrants. Now, this was a concern that they expressed to his wife in Iowa. NBC News reports at a later event in Jefferson County, Iowa, Apurva Ramaswamy was grilled by one of two event attendees about her own upbringing. Quote, "How long have you been in the United States? Were you born here?" asked Wayne Nieskern, an attendee from Fairfield, Iowa. Quote, "No, I came when I was 4. Vivek was born and raised in Cincinnati," Apurva Ramaswamy replied, explaining her family's Indian heritage. The attendee continued with questions about Apurva Ramaswamy's parents, where they lived and whether they had green cards, they are citizens, before remarking that she doesn't have an accent. Quote, "I've been here since I was 4 years old," Apurva Ramaswamy replied. "I've spoken English since I was 4. Oh my God, this is so cringeworthy. In an interview after the event, Nieskern explained that he loves foreign people. Oh, thank God, I was beginning to think otherwise, citing what he described as his 2 unofficially adopted children. He said he asked about Apurva Ramaswamy's upbringing because of the bad things the Ramaswamys say about the state of the country. He has not yet decided who he will support at his caucus, but he said it won't be Ramaswamy. Shocker, I know. So it's not just...
I thought that the idea of being Republican was like make America great again, which implies that America is not great and that it needs to be improved and saved. And so therefore saying bad things about America is about bringing it to being a good place. But if you say it when you're dark skinned, then you're just insulting the country. Ridiculous.
Whether or not you're an immigrant. The question is also whether or not you are sufficiently loyal to America, especially as an immigrant, because maybe your loyalties lie with another country. I mean, I would say that this is just explicit racism and xenophobia, but again, he did say that he loves foreign people, so I guess we have nothing to worry about here. Whew. Thank goodness here. But I mean, this guy, he's not even a Trump supporter. But that doesn't matter. You would expect Trump supporters to be the most xenophobic, but all Republicans are xenophobic and racist. And I say this because most Republicans literally agree with the harshest anti-immigrant rhetoric imaginable. And yes, that includes literal Nazi rhetoric. And I say this because a poll conducted by CBS News and YouGov finds that a majority of all Republican voters agree with Trump's Hitlerian statement that immigrants are poisoning the blood of the nation. And as you can see from the second graphic here, 72% of registered Republican voters agree with the Nazi rhetoric if it's not attributed to anyone, but they like it even more if Trump says it. So these are the...
Well, then I don't agree with you for saying that all of them, because obviously 72% agreed, then 28% are not agreeing. But, yeah, overblowing the statements.
The kinds of people that Vivek Ramaswamy is trying to win over. The GOP's base consists almost exclusively of radicalized fascists who love Hitlerian rhetoric. So this is why his attempt to humanize himself has not worked. It doesn't matter if he's chummed it up with white supremacists that they like Steve King, or even parroted the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. If he's not white and not Christian, at the bare minimum, they fundamentally don't see him as one of them. And religious...
Okay, I was restarting every single time, but now I've decided to just go back to just installing straight up.
Leaders have also been pretty open about their contempt for his religion and even claimed that his Hindu faith is evidence that Satan is trying to trick Christians, and I'm not making this up.
Satan is the author of confusion, and we know that. And right now, the battle is coming for the presidential nomination, and there's a man who is gaining traction right now as the presidential nominee, and his name is Vivek Ramaswamy, and he is Hindu, and those who are Hindu believe in many gods, and he speaks well, and he is very charismatic, and he says the right things, He says so many right things. Sometimes I'm like, maybe he is the right guy. But he's not. Because our God will not be mocked. Do not be fooled. Do not be a victim of Satan's confusion right now.
So literally just having a different religion in their eyes is tantamount to spiritual warfare where Satan is trying to trick them. And people question whether or not they mean Christianity when they talk about religious liberty. This is about Christian dominance, Christian nationalism. Now, the rhetoric that we're seeing here is just a microcosm of a bigger issue, and Vivek has had to do a lot to try to assuage their fears about his religion. NBC News continues, in the early days of his campaign, Vivek Ramaswamy faced so many questions about his Hindu faith that he eventually incorporated an explainer of Hinduism into his campaign stump speech. And yet, how big of an impact has that had? It's crazy that Republican voters are so racist and so evil that they have me almost feeling sad for Vivek Ramaswamy. I certainly feel bad for his wife, but I feel bad for him too, even though I shouldn't, because he's a fascist. This is the party who he wants to be with, because they also have a lot of fascistic beliefs, but they also have racist beliefs, and they don't want to invite him to the white ethno-state that they want to create. And it's sad to see somebody try to convince themselves just on a human level that they're human just like them, but they don't want to see it. They turn their brains off because he's brown and not Christian. It's sickening. This is the Republican Party. This is a significant portion of the American population. Even though Vivek Ramaswamy has horrifying fascistic beliefs himself, they don't want nothing to do with him. Now, I respect the effort just on a human level that he's making at the micro scale to try to change the hearts and minds of white racists in the Republican Party. I think that that's important. The problem is that even if he's changed some minds about him at the micro level, on the macro level, he's not actually going to make that big of a dent in the GOP's racism overall. And that's because deconstructing these kinds of racist beliefs requires much more than just getting to know one non-white person. And at best, there's still going to be...
I'm over this subject though. So.
Top is image creation. Bottom is the Magic Animate. You need to install the Comfyui Magic Animate custom node. I did from Comfyui Manager. Also Comfyui KJ nodes. And use Color Match node to correct the colors.
It's going to be a minute. Let's see what other political stuff that they want me to have a look at today. Stop. Don't ban my books. Former Fox illustrators after his books were banned under a book ban he supported. Funny. How I made China's most ancient subculture. If a woman likes you, be suspicious.
Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about the tech implosion. It's continuing, and now it's affecting YouTube. So, we're going to take a look at this, being YouTubers ourselves, and we're going to maybe offer up some inside baseball, some commentary on what is going on with YouTube as best as we can understand. The thing is, creators a lot of times are the last ones to know what's going on in YouTube. They make a bunch of random changes. But it does look like they are taking more of the focus off of creators, which I find concerning.
I find it stupid, but that's another story.
Yeah, and they're also talking about artificial intelligence too. So we'll talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news views.
And loading the graph, the following node types were not found.
So yeah, this is coming from the New York Times. They got a hat tip from TubeFilter. TubeFilter put an article out there yesterday saying that they're restructuring their creator management teams. That would be the people that handle the bigger YouTubers, that handle the individual creators. And it seems like they're shifting focus, according to the New York Times article anyway, on getting people to subscribe to YouTube TV.
Yeah, because that makes so much sense. You have a whole platform built up on unique voices, and people come to YouTube because they don't want to watch regular TV. Yes. And YouTube's answer is going to be, I know, let's get rid of the people for the creators and try to get the creators off of here so we can just make it a television network. Because that makes so much damn sense.
I don't think they know what they want to do.
They tried this shit last year with some stuff and it blew up and they had to walk it back not long after. Because people don't come to YouTube to watch regular TV.
Yeah, it's just another step in taking the U out of YouTube. We'll talk about why so many people are leaving YouTube, so many creators are quitting YouTube, and I think the reasons are, there are various reasons why they're leaving, but I think a lot of it comes down to burnout. A lot of them have already made a bunch of money, and they might be looking at the writing on the wall, and they might be like, hey, I made my money, and it looks like they're transitioning into, like you said, a television network, so why should I bother sticking around? Because I'm going to get buried under the NFL stuff and the...
People aren't going to come there to watch that. That's not what they come to YouTube for.
No, but let's read this. This is coming from the New York Times. YouTube cuts 100 employees as tech layoffs continue. The layoffs are part of efforts by the video platform's parent company, Google, to trim costs and bureaucracy as it embraces artificial intelligence.
You already have enough damn trouble getting a hold of a person if something happens to your account. Like,
I know, right?
It's impossible to get somebody, like, you're false flagged or you have issues, It's really hard to get people on the phone to begin with.
So YouTube is like one of the bright spots at Google, I thought. But yeah, they're cutting 100 employees on Wednesday, continuing piecemeal layoffs after shedding more than 1,000 jobs in the past week.
Oh my God.
The tech giant notified workers from YouTube's operations and creator management teams that their positions had been eliminated, according to an email reviewed by the New York Times. YouTube, the world's most popular video service, employed over 7,000 people on Tuesday. Yeah, so it's not a huge cut, but where they're cutting, I think, is what concerns me. The fact that they're cutting creator management people tells me that they're not really that interested in managing creators anymore. We made the decision to eliminate...
If you were YouTube, would you want to manage creators?
Some roles and say goodbye to some of our teammates, the chief business officer said. Anyone in the Americas, Asia Pacific region who is or may be impacted will be notified by the end of the day. The layoffs were reported by TubeFilter, which we talked about. Yeah, they said it primarily affects groups of employees who offer support to YouTube's millions of content creators. Two people with knowledge of the cuts said. They said they're having a hard time recovering from an advertising slowdown in the past year, and it's contended with strong competition from TikTok.
TikTok doesn't pay you. Here's the thing. Okay, we have an advertising slowdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your answer is YouTube is made up by creators. They try to do these movies, they try to do other stuff, and most people don't go there for that.
No.
That's not what they come to YouTube for. YouTube, needs to double down on what it's best at. And, TikTok, I wouldn't even worry about TikTok too much because the way it's going, it's probably getting themselves shut down, not, in the near future anyway. But they're trying to pivot away from what makes YouTube, and that's colossally stupid.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good move. I think that the people that are leaving YouTube, I kind of wonder if they didn't kind of see the writing on the wall because they've been there for a long time, and they're like, yeah, things are feeling really different now, guys. They are. Maybe it's a good time to kind of exit stage right.
But if the advertisers are slowing down, why does it make sense to put a bunch of money into other things that are TV oriented? Because you're up against all the other streamers with the same content.
That's true.
The reason you set yourself apart is because you don't go to Disney Plus to see individual creators. You have to come to YouTube for that.
So last Thursday, the company, as Google as a whole, eliminated more than 1,000 jobs from its core engineering division, its voice-operated product, Google Assistant, which I didn't even know existed, and some projects involving augmented reality. They just sound like kind of duds. I mean, Google keeps doing this. Like, what was it, Google Plus, and you have to have your Google pages, and they were going to compete with Facebook, and that didn't work out. And they always try this stuff, and it never sticks. We're responsibly investing in our company's biggest priorities and the significant opportunities ahead.
What's that mean?
That's
They
exactly
don't say what that means.
Yeah, this is YouTube's head of corporate communications, right? Some people are continuing to make these kinds of organizational changes, which include some role eliminations globally. So yeah, Google's chief executive said they should expect to see...
How many chief damn executives do they have?
Get rid of them.
You know what? Yeah.
Get rid of the executives, you know? So we've got, I mean, look at the picture that's kind of being painted here. So we have Twitch, which is, we're being told, is not profitable, okay? And they're laying people off in droves. Now YouTube, which as far as I know is profitable. Maybe it's not profitable on paper, but it's one of the biggest things that Google has going for them. And they're even like, yeah, we're just gonna, you know, all the people that are in charge of the talent, yeah, we're just gonna get rid of them because we don't really need creators anymore.
They're talking about how they have 182,000 people. It was up from 119 in 2019. The reason 119,000. The reason is because the pandemic happened.
Yes.
Probably. But here's what's interesting to me. They said the employer that has become known for its cushy amenities, like Silicon Valley peers. Well, then get rid of that stuff.
Yes, that would be my first inclination. Would be like, you know what? Do we really need a full-blown gymnasium and an arcade and a pool hall and a sauna and a, a masseuse?
What you do need are your creators.
Yes.
Because that's what I don't understand.
That's who you're monetizing.
This is the mindset. Google, I think, is getting rid of people because they want to keep more money at Google. So what they're doing is they're using AI to take people's articles and then putting it at the top of Google and stuff like that.
That is a thing.
So they get to keep the money. Well, YouTube, if we get rid of these people and then we promote TV networks and stuff like that, we'll get to keep the money. But the thing is, what you're not remembering is if you don't have the creators and the voices and people that are there because other people want to see them and not the other stuff, because if they wanted to watch TV, they wouldn't be on YouTube. You're going to lose a lot more than you gain.
Yeah. Just to your point here, I mean, we've talked about this, and we're going to talk about some more when we talk about comic book journalism. But this is what Google's doing. This is the new thing now, and this is why a lot of blogs are seeing a massive decrease in traffic. Is they're just kind of taking everything that's out in the internet and turning it into little snippets, AI snippets, and you don't even have to go to the websites. You don't have to watch the videos. You can just look at the snippet, and they tell you exactly what's going on.
The idiocy to me is, if you don't have the people creating the content to take the information from, you don't have the information. So like if you don't have, like if you're bloggers writing stories about stuff,
yeah,
and you take those AI uses what they wrote to give you your blurb to eliminate them. Eventually they're not going to be writing anymore because you're going to run them out of business, and then you're not going to have anything to steal from. Same with content on YouTube. You could try to make these TV shows that are similar, but the content creators and the and YouTube is what people come there for. Doesn't matter how much network television and football you have on there. People aren't coming there for that. You're going to get rid of what they're coming there for, and then you're going to flush everything else down the toilet because people aren't on YouTube for those things. No, I mean, the majority aren't on there for those things.
Yeah, that's true. But I think they're also probably looking at the demographics. And I know even like with our viewers, I assume most people watch this like on their cell phones, or they watch this on a desktop or laptop. I've heard from a lot of people that they said they actually watch this on television.
It's so weird.
Which I don't know if they have.
TV, Mom.
Yeah, I know, right? But
my mom watches this on television too. Hi, Mom.
Very seldom watch YouTube on TV.
The kids do.
Very seldom.
I don't, but the kids do.
If I want somebody to watch something, maybe like I'll be like, oh, here, I'll just screencast a video or something, like, hey, check this out or whatever. But for the most part, I'm usually watching on my computer or on my phone.
Well, what's funny to me is even TikTok, for example, like our kids will watch individual TikToks, but a lot of times they watch compilations that are usually on YouTube. It's you know.
Yeah, it's weird. People put these compilations of TikTok together on YouTube, and they probably make more money off of that than TikTok's, you know, gonna pay them. But
TikTok isn't gonna pay them. That's the thing. I mean, not very much.
well, they're talking about a decline in TikTok too. Apparently now TikTok is favoring, or they're trying to push people in longer content, but they took away the creator fund.
Well, I read something interesting the other day. They were talking about how Hollywood and the studios and stuff are putting much more spend and video time on TikTok than they are YouTube, because they're trying to appeal to this generation on TikTok.
Yeah.
Because I told you before, TikTok kids will buy pretty much anything.
Yes.
You crap in a box and you get an influencer to talk about, they're lining up for it.
Yeah, pretty much. That's
Hey,
that.
crap in a box.
Crap in box.
Some money.
Even my wife
It's like
thinks
that
that
wrong, right?
I'll just go
TikTok
around and
is
scoop
better.
dirt with pieces of stuff in it called a treasure hunt. Get someone to shill it on TikTok.
Turdy, your special
Well, no, I'm just
friend.
like you know, you go to like one of those junkyards or something where there's pieces of stuff
Yeah.
everywhere. You just shovel a load into a box, and there you go.
Shovel a load.
And you could you could send them a little sifter,
Oh
find
my God.
treasure.
It's like, no, I do that every night when I scoop the cat boxes.
That's right.
That's I'm looking for treasure. And I'm looking for tinsel sometimes too.
Not lately.
No,
It's
we haven't
Christmas
done
is over. We don't do tinsel anymore
because I would find it.
poop
Yeah.
was festive.
That was-
Anyway,
yeah, it
we
was
didn't want to
very
kill the cats, so we stopped on tinsel.
But they said that the advertising on YouTube started slowing down in late 2022. And it wasn't going up and up and up because imagine that you hit a ceiling, and they were probably hiring way too many people. Honestly, they're probably hiring a bunch of, you know, barely qualified people to manage this uptick in viewership during the pandemic because everybody's locked in their houses. That's what Twitch did. Now they got to get rid of everybody.
Well,
You know?
this is interesting because they're saying that basically when that declined,
Mhm.
they switched to trying to push people into their YouTube TV because like okay, well we're not getting ad rates to watch the creator, so instead we're gonna sell network television.
Yeah, so this is going on all over the place on the internet. And again, we'll probably talk about more in the other video about talking about comic book blogs. Everybody is charging a subscription now for things that used to be free or lower cost. Even websites, even like freaking WordPress. Like if you wanna auto post to Facebook, I just found this out today. If you wanna auto post to Facebook, you gotta pay more. It used to be part of the deal. No, you gotta pay. Everybody's pushing for subscriptions. A lot of websites are going behind paywalls. They're putting all the good content behind paywalls. YouTube, they keep sending us emails. They keep wanting us to shake you guys down for memberships. Well, why? Because they're making money. They're making money off you.
Well, even like super chats, people do live shows. They take like a bunch of your money. Like when you do a
don't
super
understand.
chat.
Yeah, you're not giving. That's why we have a link. By the way, we have a link. If you go to clownfishsupport.com, that actually goes to donor box, and we get most of that money. YouTube, if you do super chats, the creators giving YouTube like 40 to 50%.
Wow.
So YouTube is YouTube is pocketing your money. You're trying to tip your creator, and they're actually pocketing a huge part of that. That's why they're pushing for memberships. That's why they're pushing for subscriptions. This reminds me of when they tried to push YouTube Red. Remember
That's what I was thinking
you
about,
talked about the
YouTube
movies
Red,
and
yeah.
stuff, and that was
That's what I
that,
was thinking about. Yeah.
8 or 10 years ago. They're like, oh, we're gonna be like network TV, and PewDiePie is gonna have a movie, and Markiplier is gonna have a movie, and people are gonna pay a premium to watch, the Adventures of Rhett and Link, in HD or whatever the hell they were gonna do, and it was like nobody wanted to do that. And then
Because
they
they're
just
there for your show. They're not. If they want to watch a movie, they'll go to another network. If they want to, well, sometimes you can find movies on YouTube, but they're there because they want to see, tell me the backstory behind this attraction at Walt Disney World. What rides are going at Defunctland. That's what the kind of stuff they want to see. They don't want to see the same thing they can just go to the streaming service and see.
Yeah, and I think it's going to fundamentally change it because it's kind of weird because how can independent content creators compete with like the polished Hollywood stuff? And I've noticed that they're putting more movies and TV shows for sale on YouTube too. So they're taking a cut of that. So it's like Voodoo where you can like buy them. But I'm seeing like every time, like if we do a video on a movie, next thing I know, right next to our video is a video of like, oh, you can buy this movie on YouTube now. And then YouTube takes a big cut of that too. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to monetize, selling stuff. They've been pushing creators to do more with their stores and stuff like that. And, so it must be, it must be pretty bad. Let me put it that way for them, because they're kind of like, they're trying to basically push the creators to do more at the same time taking away the creator support people. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of a weird, situation. But you know, to talk about, because everybody's talking about it, all these YouTubers that have been doing it for a long time, they're all quitting almost all of a sudden. Like within the last year or two, we've seen a lot quit. I know everybody's talking about Matt Pat and some other bigger channels. Tom Scott, he's leaving. Tom Scott, I think he got sick.
I don't even know who this is.
Yeah, well, they've been around. Meat Canyon, he's taking a step back.
In the previous
Stampy,
step, you see 3.1.
I know that one.
yeah, he's not doing Stampy Longhead. He's not doing the Minecraft channel. He's got another channel out there, but he's not doing the Minecraft. I know in the animation circles, it seems like a lot of people are stepping away too, and they're saying burnout. They're saying burnout is the biggest reason, according to Mr. Beast. Now, he says burnout.
Well, I wouldn't know. I'm not a big channel, but I do know with these big channels, though, a lot of times they don't only do like one video every couple weeks or a month. Try doing 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah, it is kind of weird.
Every day.
It is kind of weird because, well, I mean, you get to a certain size where you don't have to upload every day. You get to a certain size where you're going to get millions and millions of views, you know, just dropping a video every couple of weeks or whatever. But I have to wonder if it's going to de-incentivize people to do that, because they're like, well, why bother? You know, if I'm going to get buried under the NFL, yeah, I'm going to get buried under the Hollywood stuff. And a lot of YouTubers, a lot of commentary YouTubers, they've been complaining anyway, because
know how to fix
you know, you comment on the subject, next thing you know, here's CBS News and NBC News and, you know, ABC News and all
But it's
the
going to bite them in the ass,
CNN,
because again, YouTube was created as it's YouTube because people wanted to watch different people like learn about makeup or, you know, talk about pop culture like we do, or Disney or whatever. And they came here for that reason. You know, they didn't come here to watch the same thing they could just go to regular network TV to watch. You know what I mean? They didn't.
Yeah.
So it's really, 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 really stupid if that's what they do.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, guys. But it's definitely, I mean, if Google is laying people off, it's only January. We said, look, we said this was going to happen. We did, you know, it was going to hit Hollywood and it was going to hit tech, and they were just waiting until after the new year to lay people off so they don't look like douchebags. You know, want to lay people off right before Christmas, unlike Hasbro. They were totally cool. A toy company, totally cool, being douchebags and laying people off right before Christmas. But good luck to the affected parties, guys. I think we're going to see a lot more. Unfortunately, we're going to see a lot more change, big change this year. We're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Okay, attribute. Is that what I have? Try to download my here. Try to download it. Place it in.
Visions of the
Comfyui.
future come in all kinds of flavors, from sustainable solarpunk utopias to industrial cyberpunk dystopias. Whether you believe in one or the other probably says a lot more about you and your own optimism. But we do know the future will be different. I mean, just think about how much the world has changed in the last 20 years. How much our lives have changed in the last 20 years. Well, what if we projected that out for another 80 years to the end of the century? What will the world be like in 2100? This is impossible to know, obviously. I mean, just predicting 5 years out at this point is a fool's errand. So imagine the kind of fool who wants to look ahead 80 years. But along the way, we'll take a look back at some of the predictions of today from the past and see what we can learn from what they got wrong, what they got right, and just apply that going forward. We really did our best when looking at this to kind of take our own biases out of it and just kind of look at the facts, you know, look at the long-term trends while considering the social and economic factors. Right? This is meant to be a realistic take. Not good or bad, just, you know, playing the odds. So let's time travel to the year 2100 and see exactly what things might look like at the end of the century. So before we look into the future, let's look into the past and see what they predicted about the world of today. So the place where I wanted to start was I wanted to see if I could find the oldest possible prediction of the year 2000. Seemed like a nice round number. It's the end of the millennium. I thought surely people were thinking about the year 2000 going back, you know, hundreds of years and making predictions way back then. But I think I was wrong. My writer Jason and I, we looked all over for some future predictions that, you know, came from like hundreds of years ago, but we really couldn't find much before around the mid-1800s. Now, if anybody in the comments knows about something that I missed, please by all means share it, because I'm super curious, but we couldn't find it. Yeah, we couldn't find any writings from any scientists that specifically year 2000. I thought for sure that there would be some literature that, you know, had novels that were set in the far future, but it turns out sci-fi as a genre pretty much didn't exist until the early 1800s. So many people consider Mary Shelley's Frankenstein to be the first science fiction novel. That came out in 1830. Now, whether or not that qualifies as the first sci-fi novel is up for debate, and a lively one. You guys have at it down below if you want. But the point is, before the mid-1800s, people didn't really think about the future in those terms. They didn't think of the future as a drastically different place where people live drastically different lives using technology we couldn't even imagine. And again, I am going to make the argument that the world probably changed more in the 1800s than at any other time in human history. Because at the beginning of the 1800s, people were living, for the most part, the way they had for hundreds of years prior. But by 1900, people were driving cars, making phone calls, working alongside giant machines and huge factories. I mean, if you think about it, it's no surprise that this is when science fiction showed up for the first time, because for the first time, people could see technological change happening right before their eyes, and then project that progress forward. Imagine a different world in the future. And one of the earliest science fiction authors to do that was Jules Verne. Jules Verne was a 19th century author whose famous classic novels include Around the World in 80 Days, Journey to the Center of the Earth, and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But he also wrote a book in 1863 that went unpublished. It was his second book, and the publisher refused to print it because they felt it was too grim. It would later get rediscovered and published, but that didn't happen until 1994. It's called Paris in the 20th Century, and as the name suggests, it's set in Paris in the year 1960. So he was thinking 100 years out. And get this, it's eerily accurate. For example, it includes things like the expansion of suburban living, synthesizer-based electronic music with a record industry to sell it, skyscrapers illuminated at night, gas-powered cars along with filling stations and asphalt roads, advanced forms of public transit like subways and elevated trains, fax machines, a basic internet-like system, and career women. #feminist. Now, obviously not all of that was around in 1963, but
when loading
he eventually got
graph,
there.
the following
So how did he
types were
manage to
not
get so many
found.
things right? It wasn't because he had some prophetic vision of the future or anything. He was basically just a nerd. He read scientific publications and he kept up with technological developments, and then he would infer applications of those discoveries and extrapolate from there. That sounds like old Verne was one of our people.
Install that.
Hey, Verne! But even his story was set in 1960. It didn't quite get to the year 2000. I really couldn't find a whole lot of 2000 predictions before the year 1900, but there were a lot that popped up in 1900. And that makes sense, you know, they just crossed over into a new century, and the last century saw so much change. Of course, they were thinking about where things would go from there. But many of them weren't as analytical as Jules Verne was. For example, in 1900, the Ladies' Home Journal published 28 predictions for the year 2000, and some of these predictions include, there will be no wild animals, and rats and mice will have been exterminated. R.I.P. Pizza Hut. Everyone will walk 10 miles a day, and if you can't walk 10 miles, you'd be considered a weakling. And they predicted the letters C, X, and Q would disappear from our alphabet because they'll become unnecessary. The magazine did get some things right, like ready-cooked meals would be widely available, telephones all around the world, and hot and cold air from spigots. It also said that university education would be free for every woman and man, so get out of the way with that one. Other predictions envisioned everything from dissolvable dishes to clothes made out of aluminum to car shoes. There's also the hope that diseases are cured or eradicated. People were generally optimistic about future humans being way healthier. Like another interesting thing from that Ladies' Home Journal article, it said that Americans would be 2 inches taller, and because of better living in the suburbs, they would live to 50 instead of 35. And I had to go back and check that, but yeah, that's what they said. I'm pretty sure people were living past 35 in 1900, so I don't know what that was about. Across the pond in 1900, a German chocolate company called Hildebrands commissioned a set of postcards depicting the year 2000. They put these postcards in their chocolate bars.
I need to get a snack.
These predicted people traveling in personal airships, giant roofs over cities, and weather-changing machines. But it also predicted being able to watch a theater performance from somewhere else, moving sidewalks, and mobile homes. So their versions of it were different from how they actually looked. There's also the set of postcards commissioned for the Paris World Fair that depicted life in the year 2000. They're created by Jean-Marc Coté, and eventually 87 of them will be made, predicting a lot of flying, underwater travel on a whale bus, and kids at school just getting the info zapped into their brain. Now these are easy to laugh at.
I'm gonna pull my bloody hair out in a second. This fucking reactor node stuff.
Automation, flying advancements happening right about that time, and they just started looking at what things would look like if we had actually figured that out. There are also a lot of predictions from various places about traveling and living underwater. I don't know. I just found that interesting. Like they thought that that's the next like place that we would explore into, which we did, but not on like a residential level. Now jumping ahead to 1964, the New York Times ran a story with prediction about the year 2000, and one of the sections talks about the future problem of leisure. The paper wrote, quote, "We may not anticipate the emergence of a leisure class, but we may with assurance anticipate the coming of the day when almost everyone enjoys, or groans under, the possession of leisure." It's kind of a bizarre article. It questioned what Americans would do if they could only work 25 or 30 hours a week, or if they weren't allowed to work until they were 21, and what if they had to retire at 50? The horror! Although recently there has been a lot of talk about 4-day work weeks in some companies and in some places, so I don't know, maybe we're getting there. But a lot of past predictions thought that we'd be way healthier than we are today. Many of them almost made us sound like super beings with incredible strength that never age. And while if you look at bodybuilders from 1900 and 2000, you can see we've definitely pushed the boundaries of human performance, but where they had underconsumption most of the time, we have overconsumption and all the health issues that come along with that. Also in 1966, the BBC interviewed a bunch of kids and teenagers to see what they thought the world would be like in the year 2000.
Some madman will get the atomic bomb and just blow the world into oblivion. All these atomic bombs will be dropping around the place.
There's nothing we can do to stop it. More people get bombs.
It'll be so overpopulated, there will be wars, all nuclear explosions and everything. It'll make the Earth, too much radiation on it. It'll become too hot to live on. I think that there'll be no life at all really on the Earth.
I'm not looking forward to living in that year, about 50 years' time. I mean, the world seems to be in such a terrible state now, let alone in 50 years' time.
Yeah. Clearly the Zoomers aren't the first generation to have an existential threat hanging over their heads. But this kind of brings us to the overall point, which is that predictions about the future really are more about the time that they're made than they are about the future itself. Like this prediction of the year 2000 and 1997.
After retiring from the White House, President Clinton requests and is granted an appointment to a newly formed position in the Department of Health. His title, National Breast and Fried Food Inspector.
That didn't happen? No? No. No, that didn't happen. But when I say the predictions are usually more about the time when they were made, like you can look at the 1950s, everything was about atomic energy in the 50s. It was the atomic age. So when they predicted the future, they saw everything being run by atomic energy. Southland magazine even wrote an article predicting about how crops would grow taller thanks to the positive effects of the H-bomb. In it, a fictionalized farmer said, quote, "You'd be surprised what that bombing did for the soil. Things grow like crazy, and the robot doesn't mind a bit sowing the seeds and keeping the place up. H-bombs and robots, what more can you want?" Of course, now the only people who fear H-bombs are YouTubers who play games. Also in the 1960s, computers and space travel predictions were popular. Arthur C. Clarke even predicted remote working. In a video from 1964, he said that in the year 2000, men will no longer commute, they'll communicate.
These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other, wherever we may be, where we can contact our friends anywhere on Earth, even if we don't know their actual physical location. It will be possible in that age, perhaps only 50 years from now, for a man to conduct his business from Tahiti or Bali just as well as he could from London.
I mean, not too shabby. So, just like Arthur C. Clarke and Jules Verne, I'm going to do my best to not get swept up in what's trendy today, but to look at trends over the last few decades and then, extrapolate out from that. And maybe, just maybe, we'll come up with something reasonably accurate. And if I'm wrong, and in the year 2100 they look back at this and I look ridiculous, then I guess at least I won't be around to make fun of me. Unless something really crazy happens. Okay, so I've broken these down into different lenses that kind of reflect the things that will affect the way we live in the future, or the people who follow us will live in the future. You guys can feel free to agree or disagree down in the comments. Please do chime in. I think there'll be an interesting conversation around this, but let's get started with communications. Like, what does the internet look like?
Okay,
in the year
I have it running twice.
Especially
Thank
considering how
God.
much change we've seen in just the last 30 years. It's insane when you think about it. Like, to the point that I ran across this TikTok the other day.
Okay, this is a genuine question to like older people. What did you do before you could look something up? Like, if you saw someone and you were like, oh, they remind me of that actor. What was that? What's his name? And like, okay, without Google Maps, like I know that there was MapQuest, but before that, like, genuinely, what would you do? Would you just accept not knowing?
Now, I'm not
Yep.
sharing that clip to make fun of this creator or stir up generational hate or anything like that. The reason I'm bringing it up is because I catch myself thinking that sometimes. Like, how did we live without smartphones? And I was there. I grew up without the internet. Like, the fact that the internet has gone in only 20 years from being this thing that's just kind of on your computer that you just check every once in a
People still just accept.
while, or that you know, do work on, to this thing that is in your pocket every minute of every day, providing you with all the information available in human history at all times. Literally so integrated into every aspect of our lives that we seriously don't know how we used to exist without it. I think it's safe to assume that the trend is toward more immersion. Now, in the immediate future, as I've talked about before, I think this leads to things like more virtual and augmented reality, through things like smart glasses. But there's also another kind of immersion that we've seen with the internet, and that's an immersion of opinions and perspectives. I mean, that's kind of what the internet is. It's like a giant superorganism of people, each with their own views on the world, which we're sharing more and more all the time. Like, we found an article on a website called Future Business Tech, which they've got a YouTube channel, you can go check it out if you want, but they envision that the internet of the future could be like basically a global hive mind, where every human thought and every human feeling is available to access 24/7. Also, one where you could construct your own virtual reality just based off of your brain data. Like, imagine the way personalized ads work now. Well, in the future, you might be able to build personalized realities. As if we weren't fractured enough already. Although, it could allow for more deeper understanding of other people, because if you were able to actually tap into another person's emotions and actually feel what that other person is feeling, it might make you more empathetic toward that person. Like, we have that phrase, you know, always remember that every person you meet is fighting a battle you don't know about. And that's an important piece of wisdom that we should all keep in mind. But what if you didn't have to keep it in mind? Because you could feel it for yourself. Of course, the downside there is that some people are lunatics, and some of the things people feel is hatred. So this might be something that might make it easier to spread hate, and it will be used that way. Of course, if we have the ability to, you know, download emotions and thoughts, we'd probably also be able to download skills and knowledge just directly into the brain. Like, they might look back at smartphones the way we look at the telegraph now. You know, like, yeah, people were able to communicate, but it was really clunky and weird. They might be like, how did anybody ever understand each other if you couldn't just telepathically share your thoughts with them? Now, of course, all of those scenarios are only possible if we're able to figure out how to directly interface with the brain. And I know what you're thinking, but I actually don't think it's going to be a Neuralink. I'm not trying to be anti-Neuralink. I actually defend Neuralink. I think it could be a game changer for disabled people to get them accessibility, but I don't think it's going to be embraced by the general public. Not if a non-invasive interface comes along, which I think AI could make possible. So, like, scientists have been able to read brain waves for decades, and we've learned a lot of things, like, generally about the brain and the different parts of the brain and how they work and whatnot. The problem is we've never been able to actually, like, discern thoughts or memories or anything like that, because there's just way too much noise in the signal. But AI, with its infinitely better pattern recognition, could do just that. And this isn't just me making some prediction about the future. They're doing that right now. This was in an article that came out last March in the journal Science. In the article, they talk about a team in Japan who trained an AI on 4 patients' brain scans and then showed them images like a clock tower or a teddy bear or a train. And then the AI was able to figure out what they were looking at and recreate it with stunning accuracy. Now, granted, they had to do like hundreds of fMRI scans, and the images were created with stable diffusion, so it's really more of an approximation that probably got it wrong more than it got it right. Of course, we're seeing the ones that it got right, but still. With AI being able to read through the noise, it's possible we might actually just have a cap that we can just wear that'll be able to read what's going on inside our heads. But with targeted transcranial stimulation, maybe actually be able to input images and sounds, memories, feelings. Like, if we could do that non-invasively, I think that will take off far more than a brain implant. I mean, again, unless we're talking about a disability. But you might be saying, then we'd all have to wear a cap all the time, and nobody's going to want to do that. I think you're wrong. When you look at it, we are actually living in a very hatless time compared to the rest of history. It's kind of weird, actually. It's been the norm to wear hats far more than it has been the norm not to. So yeah, I could see it coming back into fashion. Especially if it gives you access to the all-encompassing global hive mind that you need to survive. It would be different. All right, let's talk about transportation. And I'm going to start with a very bold prediction. No flying cars. I'm sorry, I've been hearing that my whole life, and we're still no closer to it than we've ever been before, so I'm calling it. It's dead. No flying cars. And by that I mean like cars that you would pull out of your driveway or your garage, and one way or another it takes off into the sky. I don't see it. Now, I can't imagine, personal drones, little air taxis that everybody could fly around point to point, almost like the way rich people have chartered helicopters today. But everyone's personal flying car, yeah. I don't think
Down all the correct wheel.
Nor do I think that there's going to be flying vehicles that are powered by some kind of fantastical hover technology like you see in, Back to the Future Part 2 or The Fifth Element or Star Wars for that matter. That would require the discovery of some kind of new exotic form of energy or gravity manipulation, something that we can't even fathom right now. Now, that discovery might be made in the next 80 years, but implementing it to the point that everybody's flying around on hoverboards, no, maybe in the far future, but I don't see it happening. Which sucks, I know, like the whole, levitating flying car thing is such a sci-fi convention. Like, I feel like we'll eventually figure it out just because we love the idea so much. And if we were talking about the year 2200, maybe. But I do think cars will still be the predominant form of transportation. But in 2100, most of them will be electric. Like fuel-burning cars will be a niche item at that point. Like, I mean, is somebody in the year 2100 going to want to drive a 1972 Plymouth Barracuda? Yes, of course somebody's going to want to drive that. It's a badass car. But I imagine electric cars will be cheaper in every way by then. Cheaper to buy, cheaper to own, cheaper to maintain. They'll probably get over 1,000 miles on a charge with solid-state batteries. And there'll probably be extra taxes levied on, like fossil fuel use. And while I really do want more walkable cities and mass transit, I think in the U.S. anyway, we're still going to be stuck on cars. I do think autonomous cars are eventually going to get there. I think it's going to take way longer than we want it to, but I think the economic forces behind it will make it happen. I know when I'm talking about transportation, different parts of the world have very different transportation modalities and everything. So this is a very U.S.-centric thing that I'm talking about here. And in the U.S. specifically, cars are just such a big part of our identity. I just don't see them fully going away. I think for a lot of us here in the U.S., cars are really more of an expression of freedom. If you don't have a car, you gotta wait on a cab or a bus or a train. With a car, you wait for nobody. You can go anywhere you want at any time. And I think for most Americans, that's pretty important. Not to mention we kind of treat our cars like mini homes, like we keep things in there, we eat in them, sneak away and take naps in them sometimes. But I do think with automation that, cab rides will be so cheap and ubiquitous that a lot more people might actually
I have taken naps in the cars, just to get away from the kids.
I know this might sound a little crazy, but maybe it might actually help spur on more high-speed rail between cities. Because like the biggest problem with rail, they always say, is the last mile problem. Well, if you have a fleet of robo-taxis that can get you from the station to your home, you might decide you don't need a car after all. And there are several high-speed rail projects in the works right now in the U.S. One of them is actually right here in Texas to connect Dallas to Houston. It's been very slow going, but it is still going, so that's something. So I think that by the year 2100, cars will be almost entirely electric and autonomous, which might lead to less car ownership, but I still think it'll be the dominant form of transportation.
Well, it probably only needs
I think air taxis will be a thing, but it won't take over the skies, and planes... Well, planes can do a couple of different functions. So I've covered this before. Planes are particularly difficult to electrify because the batteries are heavy, and normal planes lose mass along the way because they're burning jet fuel. This makes them more efficient. So if planes are going to be electrified, there's a couple of different ways it can go. One is that we might go to smaller planes that carry smaller amounts of passengers, but they're designed for efficiency. Like the Solera 500L. I did a video on that a while back. By the way, at the end of this last year, they announced the Solera 800 that they're developing, and it looks like it's supersonic and super laminar. Well, consider me super interested. By the way, for the reasons I just mentioned, I could actually see hydrogen or maybe even ammonia being good fuel sources for electric aviation because they would lose that mass throughout the flight as they use up the fuel. Might be better than batteries because batteries don't get lighter as the electricity comes out of them. So yeah, airplanes could go that way, you know, a whole lot more of them, but they're a lot smaller, a lot greener. That would have its own drawbacks,
brain
though. Like
kicking.
it would overtax our already overtaxed air traffic controllers. It would need more infrastructure to handle more planes landing on runways, means more runway repair, not to even mention pilots. Honestly, these planes would have to be autonomous. There's just no way we'd have no pilots for all of them. But anyway, that's one way that it could go. The other way is that planes might stay basically the same as they are right now, but just be much more efficient. Like maybe still using jet fuel, but with hybrid electric engines. There were actually two big announcements in 2023, one from MIT and one from a company called Duxian, that both claim to have built electric jet engines. So yeah, maybe by 2100 we'll have figured out how to run these planes on hybrid electric engines and net zero carbon fuel, like possibly made from recaptured carbon from the atmosphere. Now, in a Popular Mechanics article from 2018, they made some predictions about the future of transportation. They predicted autonomous cars and trucks and said it would lead to less traffic and fewer accidents. They suggested that most goods will be delivered by drones or pneumatic tubes. I don't know about that. They also said there might be fewer goods going around in general because we'd be able to 3D print whatever we wanted. And I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, to be honest, I really thought that 3D printing would have become a lot more popular by now.
Change.
And the fact that it's not more like just ubiquitous makes me wonder if there's something, I don't know, maybe inherent about the way we currently shop for things that might not ever go away.
Boom.
I don't know. What do you think? Now, this article did mention the possibility of flying cars, but it thought that the future would mostly lean toward autonomous cars. Though they suggested that autonomous personal drones flying people around might be commonplace. After all, we're kind of already there with that.
In sight.
As Flying Magazine's Stephen Pope
download
of
all
Popular
the
Mechanics quote, creating future autonomous aircraft is actually much easier than doing autonomous cars because there's less of a worry of running into anything in the sky. Eventually, we'll get to the point where pilots aren't needed at all. Now, another future transportation option
all the
that
models?
you may be thinking about
There's a lot of
the
fucking
whole
models.
point-to-point travel with the space
I don't think I
station
have enough space.
announced that they would do that. And I don't know. I don't see it.
I think if I try to
all
run
these
it,
launch and
Cozy
land
tells
sites would have to
me
be
what
really far
ones
away
I'm
from
missing
cities
as
for
I run
noise
through
reasons.
it.
So by the time you
Now,
travel to the
I
site and
also
endure security and
don't
all
know
that,
where
you might not be
this
saving that
metal
much
from.
time
I
unless
know
it's
it's
like
earlier in the
an
video.
other side of the world thing. And I don't know if that's a big enough market to support it. I don't know. I think it'll be technically feasible, and I think someone will try it. Somebody else, if not, SpaceX. But I feel like it's going to kind of go the way of the Concorde, like something that we can do, but just never quite got right. The economics never worked out. Not by 2100 anyway. I know there will be many naysayers on this. Nay away in the comments down below. But that is a good segue to the next lens that we can look 2100 through, and that's space travel. So according to Interesting Engineering, low Earth orbit habitats may be common, writing, quote, "These habits will consist of pinwheel stations, O'Neill cylinders, or both. They will rotate to provide artificial gravity, have functioning biomes that act as regenerative life support systems, and accommodate tourists, research facilities, workers, and residents." Okay, I do think that traveling to space is going to be fairly commonplace by the year 2100. I think there's going to be multiple destinations for people to go to, like space hotels. I think there'll be multiple space labs and microgravity manufacturing facilities in space, and maybe some kind of spinning artificial gravity space station kind of thing. But things like O'Neill cylinders and like people permanently residing in space, I'm more shaky on that one. Like, if I'm being honest, I think my own criteria kind of breaks down on this, because if we look back at the long-term trends, there's only been a handful of space stations in the last 50 years. Most of them have been really small, like Skylab, Salyut, Mir, those kinds of things. But that is quickly changing. When China sent Tiangong up in 2021, for the first time, we had 2 long-term space stations in orbit at once. And last year, in 2023, we actually had the most people ever in space at the same time, at 17 people between the 2 space stations. Although actually, technically, the most number of people that have been in space at once is 19. It only lasted for a few minutes. It was on December 11th, 2021, when there were 10 people on ISS, 3 people on Tiangong, and then Blue Origin put 6 people above Carmen and New Shepard. For a few minutes.
Yeah.
Shut up, it counts. And on top of the 2, count them, 2 stations that we currently have up in space, there's multiple private space stations and labs in development from people like Axiom Space, Orbital Reef, which is Blue Origin and Sierra Space, Star Lab, which is Lockheed Martin and NanoRacks, and India's building their own space station. Not to mention Lunar Gateway, which is technically a space station around the moon. And then you have people like Above Space with their Prometheus project that's kind of under the radar right now. And there's other more like pie in the sky concepts. But the fact is, with massive reusable rockets like Starship and New Glenn, even Neutron on the horizon, the cost of putting massive space station modules in orbit will become a lot more feasible. I imagine by the 2040s, we'll think nothing at all of there being 7 or 8 space stations in orbit, 30 or 40 people in space at a time. But space tourism at that point, I think, will still be for the ultra-rich. But assuming the economics work out and reusability brings the cost of going to space down, I could see going to space as being kind of like a bucket list thing.
Good, this is what we wanted.
You know, something really expensive, but not out of reach for most people. With dozens of space stations where people can live and work, maybe even media studios. The interesting engineering article also says that a space elevator could be developed as soon as the 2050s, and not just one, but 3 located along the equator. Okay, I covered space elevators on here a long time ago, and I of course love the idea. I think it would be amazing, but I've got to be honest, the more time has progressed, the less bullish I am on the idea, the less convinced I am that it'll actually happen. I don't want to derail this whole video. Let's just say that I think that by 2100, the cost of going to space, of space flight, will have calmed down enough that building and constructing and the risk around a space elevator would just kind of be redundant. And I'm not saying it won't happen, but I do put the probabilities fairly low. The article also says that we'll have permanent settlements on the moon and Mars by 2100. And okay, I know I'm probably sounding really negative compared to this article right now, but I do think that if we have settlements on both of those places, that they'll still be really small, even by 2100. It's not that I don't think we can do it. It's really one of those more, we'll be technically capable of doing this, but I don't know if the economics will work out. You know, like I think we'll have landed on Mars by 2100. But again, it's the economics of it that I could see not working out. For both Mars and the moon, I think that if we don't find some kind of economic benefit, it will struggle. And it will take way longer than we think it should. If we do find some kind of resource that we could exploit at a profit, then absolutely, we'll be all over both places. But if not, I think by 2100, they might look at the Mars missions the way we look at Apollo, you know, as this amazing inspirational thing that we did that time. So to sum all this up, being fairly conservative, I think that by 2100, people will be shuttling back and forth to the space stations on a regular basis, maybe weekly, with multiple, probably dozens of space stations and hundreds of people living in space at a time. But it's still not something that just anybody can afford to do. And I think that we'll have small outposts on Mars and the moon. And I think that manufacturing will be a big business in space. But back on Earth, the UN predicts that the world's population could reach 10.8 billion by 2100. And of course, this brings up concerns around resources, which is understandable. But I think, and bear with me on this, that the big anxiety people are going to have in the year 2100 around the population is that it's not growing enough. I know, just let me explain. If you look at this chart from the UN population division, you can see that most experts predict the birth rate to decline and population to level off in the 2070s and 2080s. This is because as more people get access to advanced medicine, birth rates will go down because people have access to birth control and family planning. So it's expected that by the time 2100 comes around, growth rate will actually be in the negative. And that sounds like a good thing, again, because of limited resources and whatnot. But economically, there's that word again, it's kind of bad. Because when you have fewer people entering the workforce, supporting a larger aging population, it puts some serious constraints on the economy. That's something Japan's dealing with right now. In fact, in September of last year, CNN quoted Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida saying that Japan is, quote, on the brink of not being able to maintain social functions. Like some people talk about the prospect of a population decline in almost doomsday terms, like global economic collapse. And I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do know that when the growth hits zero, it will be the very first time in the history of our species, outside of weird genetic bottlenecks that we still don't understand, that the population has gone down.
Why did I do that? Okay.
It will be a very big deal. But Joe, you may be saying, you keep talking about how the economics of this and that won't work out. Well, what if we're on a completely different economic model by that point, like some kind of post-scarcity society?
So this is the big thing. Do not click on
Sure, let's talk about that. If you subscribe to the generational theory like I talked about in my video on accelerationism, then you believe that history works in cycles of big crisis periods every 80 years or so, one of which we are approaching, if not in right now, which would mean that 2100 would be the next crisis point. Now, whether or not you believe in this theory, and I do have my criticisms of it, you have to admit that capitalism does have a pattern of blowing itself up. I mean, during the Industrial Revolution, capitalism was completely out of control. Working conditions were dangerous. People lived in company towns that gouged them to the point that they would be permanently indebted to the company. Striking workers were mowed down in the streets by the National Guard. People were living in some of the worst conditions in human history. And yeah, there was a backlash. It was called communism. And today we're living in what a lot of people call late-stage capitalism, where once again, everything feels unsustainable, and I could imagine seeing some kind of backlash in the next 20 years or so. Now, what that looks like is anyone's guess. In the U.S., we didn't fall to communism, but we did bust up monopolies, strengthen unions, and enacted social reforms during that time. So it's possible we may go through some kind of phase like that again. But I don't know if we actually create a new post-capitalist economy. Not yet. But toward the second half of the century, I see autonomous robotics really starting to have a very real effect on employment, and at the very same time that the world population is leveling off. And this is when I think they really are going to have to come up with something completely different. So my bet is that in the last couple of decades before the end of the century, there will need to be some kind of entirely new economic model.
Now, if I just go and take the
digital currencies and credit systems, I don't know, but it's going to be difficult. Okay, a couple of quick angles. Let's talk about energy. Yes, I think we will crack nuclear fusion by then. And so does futurologist Ian Pearson. As Pearson said in the BBC.com article in 2012, quote, "This is likely by 2045 to 2050 and almost certain by 2100. It's widely predicted that we will achieve this. What difference it makes will depend on what other energy technologies we have. We might also see a growth in shale gas or massive solar energy facilities. I don't think that wind power will still be around." What's wrong with wind, Ian? So I do think we'll have wind. But when it comes to fusion, again, it's the economics of it I'm not sure about. I mean, if the only way to do it is by building a $20 billion reactor and solar and battery storage continues to get cheaper, it's going to make a lot more sense for people to just do that. Hell, we might be able to do space solar capture and then bounce it down to stations on Earth with microwave beams for baseload power. That might actually be cheaper than doing fusion at that point. The United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs estimates that renewables could make up 65% of the energy sector by 2030 and go up to 90% by 2050. Now that sounds pretty aggressive to me, but definitely the general trend is toward renewables more than fossil fuels. And I'm pretty sure that fossil fuels will be more niche in 2100 if they're being used at all. In 2100, the average lifespan should be well into the 80s, and we may even be able to extend life to 130 years, at least according to some medical predictions I found. Which, by the way, will only add to the population decline problem. I like the idea that we could have bespoke treatments where a doctor just diagnoses your problem, and then through some gene editing and protein folding, a machine can just create a treatment specific for your condition. Or if aging is caused by epigenetic damage to your genome, maybe a doctor can just pull out your genome, essentially clean it up with CRISPR, and then just put it back into you with a viral vector, and then just undo all the aging damage you've accumulated. And the big question, of course, is will we cure cancer? And yes, I think we will cure most of them at least. Keeping in mind, of course, that cancer is not just one disease, it's actually dozens of different kinds of disease, and we're actually curing new kinds of cancer all the time. So hopefully by then we'll have most of them left. And the last lens that we can look at the future through, I've saved to the end because depending on how this one goes, it could invalidate every single thing I've said in this video. All right, do I think that we'll reach AGI by the year 2100? Yes, I do. In fact, I think it'll happen before 2050. And some of you may think that even that is absurdly conservative considering the pace of change over the last few years. And you might be right, but I'm thinking it might be kind of like what we're seeing in autonomous cars, that going from 99.9 to 100% is harder than getting from 1 to 99.9%. So to get to where your computer or your phone is,
I should really watch a tutorial.
Having the exact same mental capabilities as a human being that could be a literal partner with you, I'm thinking that could take some time. Next question, do I think that artificial superintelligence will be a thing by 2100? Yes, I do, and I think it'll happen pretty quickly after AGI happens. And if it does happen, well, this is where all my predictions break down, because it's anyone's guess at that point. What a superintelligent AI could think of is literally, by definition, outside our ability to comprehend. It's simultaneously like a god and like an alien life form. Maybe we can have cheap fusion power because the AI figured it out. Maybe we can build space elevators and colonize the solar system and have flying cars and cure cancer and fix the economy, and all the things that I had objections to in this video could be figured out by this omniscient being who just takes care of us while we just become I don't know, pets. Or it could completely wipe us out.
It won't bother.
I'm just saying it could go in different directions. Now you might be wondering how I went this whole video without mentioning.
What's that event where the sun shoots flares, solar flares at Earth, and it shoots out, destroys electronics? I'm not saying the Kardashev event, that's the scale, not the Tunguska event. Some event where we get hit. Humans will survive it. AI would need us to bring it back.
It's been hard. Because when you search for predictions about the year 2100, almost all of them are about climate change. But I didn't want to focus on that because while yes, climate change is definitely going to change a lot of things in the world, I mostly wanted to focus on how people will live in the year 2100. And depending on where you live, your daily life might not be that different at all, or it might be a lot worse. Some places it might actually be better. Just for some fun numbers, though, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change predicts that the global temperature would rise by 3.3 to 5.7 Celsius by the end of this century. Sea levels may also rise up to 1.8 meters. This could affect cities like Amsterdam, Bangkok, Dubai, and New Orleans, among many others. Also, annual rainfall may increase by 6.8% by 2100 compared with the period from 1995 to 2014. And carbon dioxide is predicted to reach 560 parts per million by 2100, according to Business Insider. That could destroy more than 9,000 coral reefs around the world. I think we'll continue to see stronger storms and more damaging hurricane seasons, which will affect how and where people live, and we'll see massive migrations of climate refugees around the world. There will be adjustments. But as the trend for electrification continues over the next 30 to 40 years, along with mitigation efforts, I think we might see a plateau, which could stabilize and trend back downward over time. Unless we hit some kind of tipping point beyond which the Earth can't recover, in which case we as a species will just have to adjust. Maybe with a little help from our godlike superintelligence. So there are a lot of maybes, coulds, and mights in this episode because
it's just going to be pretty bad.
Nobody knows how things will go, and there's always the possibility of some crazy, unimaginable, disruptive event that can change the course of human history. And that course is not yet written, because we're the authors, and it's our job to write it. I know it doesn't feel like it a lot of the time. Most of the time we feel like we don't really have any control over the things that happen in the world, but we actually do. In the choices we make, in the people we surround ourselves with, how we spend our money, every single decision we make writes another letter in the grand choose your own adventure book of the future. There's a million different possible future timelines, so my advice would be pick one you like and start working toward it. And one way you can do that is to get your money.
I'm getting a bit tired.
By the way, $1 today is predicted to have the same buying power as $8.64 in 2100.
Custom node structure. Yeah, put it in the right place.
So you better hang on to as much of it as possible, and I might suggest to help you out with that, Rocket Money. Did you know most people are paying for a subscription of some kind? They don't even know it. That's why everything's going to subscriptions these days, because you're a lot more likely to just forget about it and just keep paying on accident. They aren't doing it because they're making less money off of you. Well, Rocket Money keeps an eye on your account and finds recurring payments like that and makes them visible to you, and they'll cancel any subscriptions you decide you don't need. And this works. I know this works because I found out that I'm paying twice for HBO Max somehow. I was probably doing that for well over a year. Rocket Money found out about it in like 5 minutes. And that's just the start of what Rocket Money can do. They can also set budgets based on analysis of your spending habits. You can set up automatic savings deposits so you can grow a cushion over time without having to think about it. And they can even look at your bills and negotiate better rates for you. It's like having an automated chief financial officer for your life that deals with these things so you don't have to. Rocket Money customers save an average of $720 a year, and altogether they've saved over $500 million. And you can save too, so join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today by going to rocketmoney.com/Joe Scott or click the link in the description. It costs nothing to start, you can give it a try, and there are features that you can unlock with premium subscription, but it is free to get started. So one more time, that's rocketmoney.com/Joe Scott to get started for free. It's down in the description, go check it out. Alright, big thanks for watching, and a huge shout out to the Answer Files on Patreon who have been supporting this channel, some of them for like 7 years now, which is just crazy. But I can't thank you guys enough. You keep things going, you give a nice cushion so I don't ever have to like worry too much about not being able to pay my team or pay the bills and stuff.
Wow, I wish I had a team.
But there's some new people I need to shout out. We've got Dave Schminicki, Gail McQueen, Richard Williams, Krista Morgan, Nina Lynn, Peter Antill, Dennis Botel, Marcus Stubbles, Marina Stanfa, John Donnelly, and Lucy. Some of these guys supported a while back, so it's taken a while for me to get to these because of the holidays and everything. But thank you guys so much. If you would like to join them, get early access to videos, access to exclusive live streams and Zoom calls, as well as join a community of amazing people, please go to patreon.com/answerswithjoe. Please do share and like this video if you did like it. And if this is your first time here and you have no idea who this guy is who talked for however God knows how long this video is, and you want to know more about the stuff that I talk about, you can look at any of them that are down on the little sidebar of this thing if you're in your browser, or should have a thing pop up on screen right here that you could go check out, and I invite you to do so. And if you enjoy it, want to see more, I do invite you to subscribe. Come back with videos every Monday. But I think that's it for now. You guys go out there, have an eye-opening rest of the week, rest of the century for that matter. Stay safe, and I will see you next Monday. Love you guys.
Downloads, open folder.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Re-Tifos, where I take old science fiction stories that I've read in the past and update them with my new skills. Well, hopefully. The channel is heading straight towards 100,000 subscribers. If you could hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and the like button if you're not liked. The channel is heading straight towards 100,000 subscribers. If you could hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and the like button if you're not liked.
Oh, my daughter's crying again.
Okay. Alright, so after all of that shenanigans, hopefully you've clicked the like button, the subscribe button, and dropped a comment down below saying 100k. Anyways, on to the story. It's called Bavarian Hospital Eagle. As humanity began to find out who else was in their cosmic neighborhood, they found some species who were similar, and some who were entirely different. But something that seemed to be universal was that these species were fairly homogeneous. At some point, one nation, or religion, or ideology took hold, and their cultures were unified before they ever reached the stars. Humans had been struggling against one another for as long as history had been recorded, and life had been going on before that. No one ever seemed to get the upper hand. As one nation, or religion, or ideology got strong enough to take a hold and gain critical mass, something would happen. A conqueror would arise, a new prophet, a new philosopher. Human culture was quickly becoming dominant simply because it gave Xenos a vast wealth of choices, something that they'd been lacking. One of the most popular trends of the day were the groups of Xenos to pool their funds and take a cultural journey to Earth, visiting as many different parties and festivals as they could for the sake of trying to get even a tiny glimpse at the unique offerings humans brought to the galaxy. No species had as many parties, got drunk as often, or ancient festivals as the humans. This had spurred on a golden age for humanity, free to expand and trade as Xenos practically tripped over themselves in their attempts to befriend the species, who threw the best parties there ever were. We focus now on one of these groups of Xenos traveling around the world, 5 Kresh brothers from the Oltusian Empire, a species of humanoid amphibians with various breeds depending on the needs of the hives. Originally, they'd been enemies of the humans, getting into several border conflicts with them before the Atlusians had discovered the incredible culture humanity had to offer. Since then, most of the warriors who'd been bred had to be repurposed, their need in battle no longer necessary. As such, most of them were still soft-shelled, untested, and hardened through battle. The Hive Shepherds instead sent them into human territory in an attempt to learn more about what made humans so special. This group had been on Earth for a month now, touring the area the humans refer to as Europe. They'd wandered museums, ancient towns, ruins from thousands of years ago, and more. The desire humans had to hold onto their past was insatiable. It was a part of who they were, no matter where they went. The first true festival the brothers got to experience was the nation known as Bavaria, eyes wide as they saw the massive crowds of people. "What is this place called again?" Nyekchuk asked as he gave the smallest among them a nudge. He had his olfactory receptor in a book. They call it the Oktoberfest. Hundreds of years ago, there was some sort of big wedding that got so out of control and massive that it went on for like a month. So now they celebrate by trying to copy what happened back then. They drink lots of beer and eat sausages and other food in beer halls. The brothers were grinning and laughing at the sound of that. A party dedicated to a party. Was there nothing these humans wouldn't use as an excuse to drink and eat? Everywhere they looked, there were more humans in strange clothes and hats, holding massive cups of beer, talking and laughing as Xenos tried to figure out where to go. Many of the brothers were eyeing the human woman as well. They had a striking appearance to the Krishna of myth, and most strong-blooded warriors had plenty of appreciation for that particular myth from their own history. Only Wretched wasn't paying attention to the people, since he was still reading. Hopefully we'll find a beer hall that will take us in, and we can join the party, he was saying. I'm fairly sure the party is everywhere, Kanch said with a laugh, shaking the smaller warrior as he waved a hand. Look at that beautiful woman, and that strange music that's all around us. Yes, but we stand out. They're all in those special clothes, pointed out. They started to press through the crowds of humans, then trying to find some place to go when Fritsch pointed to a sign down a small winding alley that promised to have what they were looking for. Breaking out of the mass of people, they wandered down the alley and into a shop. They saw an old woman behind the counter. All around them were clothes that they'd seen and various sized hats hanging from hooks. As she saw them enter, a certain light seemed to fill her eyes, and while the translators weren't programmed with local language, Fritsch had learned some on his own. He thought she muttered something like, Altusians, they'll be perfect. But he couldn't be sure before she spoke up in English, which their translator knew. Welcome to my shop. Please come in. All are welcome during this holiday. The old woman stepped out from behind the counter. 5 more to celebrate the wonderful Oktoberfest, yeah? Let me treat you to some appropriate clothes. Well, how much would that cost? We have to watch our funds, Frisch said. He always the worried one. Nonsense. You are guests in my country. Here, partake in the greatest party of them all. No charge, no charge. They grinned at that as she began to wave them away from the door and into a shop. Their similar shapes to humans made it easy to find them proper lederhosen, alpine hats, and Trashton shirts. They sported clawed feet, so the usual knee socks weren't really an option. Even so, she found them properly sized clothes and waved them into changing rooms, which were a little small. But they were soon dressed up in Bavarian style as the old woman looked them over. Ja, ist good. She was practically eyeing Unit, the biggest of them and their de facto leader. Do you fine boys have reservations? You seem to be wandering around like a lost child. Did you plan for all the people? To be honest, we didn't, ma'am, responded. Ah, well then, you'll have to come and join my family. We have our own private hall for this holiday, very old. True to ancient customs, you must come and join me as my guests. Your hospitality puts us to shame, ma'am. Is there anything that I can offer you? Our funds aren't especially plentiful, Unit was saying, but she waved his offer off. Nine, you are my guests. Your presence is all I require. She then waved them back outside. I'll keep your possessions here in my shop so they aren't lost. We'll return for them later. Once they were outside, she locked up her shop and nodded, motioning for them to follow her deeper through the ancient winding streets. Soon, they were standing in front of an incredibly old-looking building. On the exterior were various wood carvings, mostly depicting some sort of hunt, and a fierce-looking creature with pointed horns, identified as a stag. There was a massive human about as big as Unit waiting outside. There you are, Grandmama. Who are these guests you have brought to our family's beer hall? They are fine visitors from another world, here to experience our festival. Ah, well, welcome, friends. You will find no more accommodating hosts in all of Bavaria, the human said with a wide grin, waving them into the hall behind his grandmother. They entered the old wood halls, spotting a few hundred people inside. There was much noise of laughter, and talking filled the air. plus that strange yet comforting music being played by the band near the back. The grandmother and grandson led them forward, finding them a table up near the band, waving over a few women holding these massive cups they'd seen. "Look at the legs on them," Knitch said with a gasp, thankfully speaking in Kresh talk so the humans wouldn't understand. His eyes were set firmly on a fine Bavarian woman, who set one of the massive cups for each of the Andalusians and one for the grandson. He raised the mug. "This is a stein. So long as you are here as our guests, we shall fill it with only the best beer we make. So partake, enjoy. Prost!" With that, he pulled the mug to his lips, tilting his head back as they watched in surprise as he drank the whole thing in one long pull. He slammed it on the table with a big grin. "Welcome to Bavaria!" The old Tusians cheered and raised their mugs, clanking them together as they started to drink, each to their own level. Only Unech could match the human in downing his in one go, and after he was finished, he had to cough and catch his breath. The others laughed as Fresh slapped him on the back for a moment. They were already in high spirits thanks to the hospitality that they'd been shown, but the warmth spreading through them now was from the strong beer. "This is simply incredible," Knitch said as he looked over at the beer hall. "I have to agree with you, Knitch," Rich said, making an unusual agreement with the brasher warrior. "The woodworking is incredible, and the age of this building is beyond anything that we have back home. We are so quick to tear things down." I wasn't talking about the boring skirt. What I was talking about was those skirts, those legs. He was eyeing the woman walking around with very lusty mindset. Fresh shook his head. "Careful, Flinched. We might like them, but there is no saying if they like us." "Oh, lighten up, Fresh," Bridged muttered, and took another heavy pull of his beer, before waiting for another. The five brothers were laughing and enjoying themselves then, helping themselves to the food that was brought over. They had no idea what it was, but they ate it nonetheless. Some of the humans at the other tables would look their way time from time and raise their mugs. The Althusians would return the gesture and then drink, finding it hard to keep up with the humans. Even their women appeared to be downing gallons of the stuff, but that was likely just their impression rather than the reality. They were trying to wrap their heads around all the flavors and smells and sounds they were being bombarded with, having very little to compare it with from their own culture, which was fairly utilitarian and filled with stories about bettering the hives. Who wanted any of that when humans had all of this? And it was just one festival. Soon Kainch was ignoring the others, who were talking about making sure they visited another continent for some sort of costume festival at the end of the month. He was staring at one of the Bavarian women who kept eyeing him. He saw her smile as she sipped at her beer, and then closed one eye, but not the other, as she rose it up from a table. Leaning away from him, he stared deeply into the fluff of her skirt, hoping to see more than just her legs. She walked back towards the area he knew the bathrooms were in, and looked back at him very clearly before rounding the corner. "I'll be back. I need to drain the dragon," he muttered, quickly standing up and bumping the table as the others complained, grabbing their stains so they didn't spill. He wasn't paying attention to them, though, instead walking down the way the humans had gone. He ignored the wood carvings behind him and looked at the three doors. One had a window in it, where he figured it to be the kitchen. The other two had some human letters written on them, but he didn't know what they meant. As he stared, the door on the left opened, and he saw that woman inside, beckoning him closer. He thought back to the Krishna-miss as he followed her, quickly setting his hands on her sides. He didn't know quite what to do, only that he wanted to feel her. Hands roaming over her body as she leaned in against him. She was doing that human thing along his chin. Kissing? It felt nice, but she seemed to be licking him more than kissing him. He didn't care up until he felt her flesh sink into the flesh of his throat, and he gasped in pain, shoving her back. He felt something rip and looked on in horror as he saw his blue blood dripping from her lips as she grinned at him. There was a noise, and he turned, seeing a human stepping out from one of the stalls. The last thing he saw was a mallet swinging down at his face. "So if we keep this tight schedule, we should make it in time," Vrich was saying. "Don't fret so much, Vrich. Relax, enjoy yourself," Vrich was saying before gulping down even more beer. Hey, has anyone seen Kaint? Frecht asked. No, not since he went to the bathroom, Netch responded as they glanced around. Maybe he found the legendary Krishni? The others laughed and grinned at that, but Frecht stood up. I'll go check on him. I need to go anyway. He wandered back towards the bathrooms, noticing the strange wood carvings that depicted some sort of fight between a human and that pointed horned creature he saw elsewhere. Shrugging, he looked at the two doors he figured had to be for the bathrooms and just picked one at random. As he pushed open the door, he saw someone inside and heard a female scream, "Sorry, sorry," he muttered, and stepped back out, quickly entering the other door. He recognized the white porcelain things humans used and figured that he had the right one this time. He struggled with the Bavarian garb for a while until he figured out how to get himself free so that he could relieve his bladder into the designated area. Once he was done, he tucked everything back into place and turned around. Once he had stepped outside, though, he was staring at the wood carvings. Was the man eating the pointed creature, or the other way around? He tilted his head one way and then the other, staring at the scene in front of him, unsure what he was looking at. "Hey there!" a voice made him jump as he saw one of those human women standing in the door that he'd figured was the kitchen. "Your friend said that you might also like to find a Krishni." Frecht blinked at that and approached her, entering the door. As it swung shut, there was a heavy thud. It had been another 10 minutes before Unech stopped Vrjech from jabbering on about this or that. Okay, now both Knech and Frecht are missing. Before he can make a point or ordering others to go looking, and saw a pair of human women walk past, giggling. "Hello, boys. I think your friends mentioned something about finding mythical creatures. Glad you're all having such a nice time." The other three relaxed then. "Oh," Unech said simply. "Guess Knech was right." "That's very interesting. I wasn't sure what the human stance was on Altrusian's attractiveness," Vrcht was saying. "Guess that answers that," Vrcht said with a grin, and then slowly stood up on unsteady legs. I need to go drain it as well. Promise I won't get seduced by any Krishni." He grinned and staggered back towards the bathrooms. He saw 3 doors, and in his drunken haze stepped through the 3rd. He saw a red meat piled up in various areas, cooktop stoves all working to feed the hungry guests. Then he frowned as he saw some blue meat near the grinder. There was a blue blood all over the floor in the area as the human pressed something into the meat grinder. Was that an arm? His eyes went wide as he saw that and gasped out. The chefs and butchers turned, seeing him. "Shaser," one muttered. He turned and tried to run out, staggering heavily, though, as the alcohol was filling his system. He made it to the hall when a cleaver flew through the air, sinking into the back of his neck. They descended on him, one reaching down to cut his throat as they dragged him back into the kitchen. Unech leaned back a bit. Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" Vrjech asked, looking up from his book. Before Unech could go on, through the music seemed to change, and a bunch of people cheered, moving towards the open area near them as they started to dance. He looked over and found a human woman pulling on his arm. "Come on, you must dance." "But I was..." "Dance, you must," she was insistent, and he looked over at Frecht, who smiled and shrugged. So Unech let himself be pulled up and away from the table. He looked back at Frecht, but couldn't see his brother anymore, just a crowd of humans. Maybe another woman had asked him for a dance as well. Unech began to dance then, moving as the others showed him, dancing to the music, smiling and laughing as it went on. But once the song had ended, his smile faded. Humans moved back to the dance floor, leaving him alone in the center. All around him, the Bavarians had formed a human wall. They were chanting something in a language he didn't understand. The warrior had no idea what was going on. Where was Frecht? Where were his brothers? The chanting grew louder and louder, and as it reached a violent crescendo, some of the humans parted. He gasped as he saw a massive human figure, wearing some sort of giant mask. Or maybe it wasn't a human, but a creature that had the body of a human and the head of one of those stags Vrich had said were carved everywhere. The creature was shirtless, body coated in designs painted in blue. But then Unech realized that blue wasn't paint. It was the blood of his brothers. The warrior roared out, only to have his bellow returned by the creature as they charged one another. They slammed into each other, the soft-shelled Altrusian having never been tested in true battle. Until now. He was drunk and nearly feral in his rage as he fought, fists swinging out, slamming into the figure with the head of a stag. But the other was experienced and steady. He let out Yanech wear himself out, swinging and landing body blows, but keeping him from getting any real hits in. He began to go on his own offensive finally, punching Yanech in the face over and over and over, rattling his brain as the old Tushian saw stars and spots. Finally, Yanech collapsed to his knees, and the humans cheered out, starting to chant once more. But this time, it was something even more dark and evil. The warrior struggled, but the thing with the head of the stag gripped Yanech's arms, pulling them back as he kept on his knees. This time, the small figure in black shroud, shriveled with age it seemed, slowly walked out of the crowd. In one hand she held a dagger, and in the other, an ancient book. The crowd went silent as she began to recite something ancient and cryptic. Yanech struggled, but the stag-headed man held him fast. The old woman approached him, lashing out with a knife as she cut open his shirt. Then he howled in pain as she gripped his chest, driving the dagger in at an angle to get in between the hidden chest scales and the rest of his ribs. She drove in the blade deeper, prying the scale off as he screamed, blue blood pouring down his chest and stomach. His blue heart beat within. She gripped it, and an old hand and eyes twitched as he fell unconscious with agony. The blade moved quick and precise despite her age. She held it in the air as it beat once, twice, 3 times, then stopped, pouring out still more blue blood over her figure as the crowd cheered. The humans had parties, and many of the modern ceremonies known to the galaxy were about getting drunk and having fun. But this hid the darker side that humans had been careful to conceal. For every 100-year-old party, there was an older, deeper meaning that went back thousands of years. They all told the Xenos their old rituals simply faded away to give in to new, but it wasn't true. The old rituals just became harder to find, tucked away in the dark, secret, kept alive by only the trust of believers. The truth was human culture was so interesting because we had to make up new ways to get some of the thrill we used to experience. Back to the old days, when the old ones spoke to us directly. In those ancient forests, barren steppes, and stone circles, getting drunk and having fun was all well and good, but nothing could compare to the rush of a ritual sacrifice. This is humanity. We're so interesting because we're insane.
Wow.
End of story.
So let's refresh this. Should be done now. And if we run the queue, we should see errors. Where will we have them?
I would just quickly like to thank
MP4,
Dragon Soup,
realistic,
Cold War, Boomer
okay,
Bombs,
realistic
77,
vision. I didn't put
Red
them in
Panda
SD4.
121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Casper Arnold, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Light Jock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Anthony. Thank you very much.
In the bleakest of love, when the sun seemed to be setting for me one last time, the day came. They marched in a series of long, thin, ranked lines, with the banners soaring. And at the front of the rank, at the very center of it all, was their orchestra, smashing at their drums and blaring away on their horns and fifes. Just like they had paraded their way into Garrick, these human soldiers were now parading their way into battle. It seemed foolish to me at first, but as I made my escape, I couldn't help but notice the drum beats. They weren't like the war drums of the orcs, like I had joked in the past. They were anything but warlike, in fact. They were jovial, where you could hear the drumming and beat with the slow footsteps. There was almost a skip in the beat, making you eager to put your foot down in pace with the drums. And the fifes and horns seemed to make the whole image both more inspiring and more jarring. It was a parade tune, of course. A song of victory and triumph. A song of...
So, if I go to the video that we want to look at.
Now, we'll be delving into the exciting
Dancing.
features of our
Okay.
latest.
He would have on that video everything that we could download, right? So one dancing girl. No. Can I download this? She is in the same position as this one. Nope, no. Now, how do I get this image? Video.
Baby, work it.
Download YouTube video. No. Don't have to pay for it. Save as. Market. Sophia. If anybody is interested. And now if I go back into here, click. Let's just rename it so we can attribute our work. Sophia. Okay. Is it working?
The stable diffusion animation. Said bye-bye to the old flickering control net stitching image method. We are talking about the smoothness, sharpness, and realism character movement. The Comfyui and Animate Diff allow us to make better and better. And IP Adapter help us to enhance the style from LCM model images. Let's check out the last update of this Animate Diff LCM animation workflow. Now, we'll be delving into the exciting features of our latest update for the animation workflow, specifically focusing on the Animate Diff Control Net IP adapter. Additionally, we'll explore the newly added Detailer Custom Nodes group, which enhances the output quality of our animations. We'll be showcasing a group of custom nodes that I have been updated, specifically tailored for animation differential control. We are thrilled to the Animation Diff Detailer, a very great nodes group that enhances the quality of animation outcome. And then you can find this Comfyui Impact Pack and Comfyui inspired pack. Now, I forgot which one it's from for the detailer, but both of them are very useful for Comfyui users like us, and they have a lot of features, so both of them. When you download them, there won't be any issues. Now, let's go back to our workflows. First, we will navigate to the LCM settings here. As you can see, I'm using the Stable Diffusion 1.5 LCM LoRa model. I'm still using LoRa model because I prefer the checkpoint models I have worked a lot with, which is the Realistic Vision. The current version is 6, and now we come to the settings of the detailer for animation. We are using the same sampler method, which is also set as LCM. Additionally, I'm going to increase the sampling step slightly compared to the K sampler and CFG. I have set it to the LCM maximum, which is 2. Next, these are all the outcomes here. In this new workflow update, I have combined 3 videos at the top so that we can observe the different results and compare which one works best for our animation video. As you can see, the first one is this. The face appears somewhat blurry, and the hand also appears blurry. Now, let's move on to the second one. I see that the face appears clearer because I have specifically focused on enhancing the facial details in this video generation as compared to the same timing in the other video. As you can see, both videos are completely different. Here's the first one on the left. Additionally, you can observe the ultralatic detector provider, where you can select the model's name and see its capabilities. They offer options for focusing on the face.
Detailer, face up. Ah, nutsack of Christ. I'm missing this feckin' InSwapper one. I thought I had InSwapper already installed. Reactor, models, no. I know I downloaded that. So it's not meant to be an insight. Copy. Where would it go? Maybe it's the other two things. Code, former, .pth. Not what I thought I was getting. I really wish they would tell you where these things are supposed to go. Face swap. Okay. Custom nodes. Face swap. Face swap. Nope. No. Oh, I saw fizz nose. No. Comfy extras. No. Face restore. Let's just put it there. Rename you to that. Re-interface. Retina face. Oh my god, re-interface. Beer only. Don't drink more than 150. And that's resonant 50. Into well, it seems that actually this is all isolated, not connected to anything. It seems like it's still running. %. So it's taking this video, it's going through here, it's adding in the weights, it's going into LCM, bang, nothing. It's all isolated. That's all isolated. Huh. LCM optional. Oh. Did the dense pose and open pose. But how did it get to there? Oh, it did that too. That's cool. Here, little tiny woman. Oh, it's actually connecting everything together. Ah, my ear. So this works in some kind of magic way, and of course I've fucked up the face reactor part. I fucking hate face swap or fast face swap. I hate it. I hate reactor. I have no idea why it's not fucking working the way it's supposed to work when it's supposed to work. It should have given me a warning early on. I would have worked on it. Okay, but I'll live. I'm going to give that a couple of minutes. I'm going to go out for a vape and a bit of a chill, and I'm going to then call it a night after that. I know that this stream may not have been the most entertaining for some of you guys, but at least it was more relaxing for me. I needed a break. I needed to listen to my shows. I'm going to save this for later. Save to study. See what he has. Thank you, future thinker at Benji. But please tell me and people that don't have a clue where to put these bloody models. ears. Oh, that's making some progress. I guess I'll wait until the end. Hopefully, it's only loading formattings. Let's see how long I can wait. Maybe we'll watch this 10-minute video and see what he gets and how he does it. He's given us a different workflow than what he has here. And this came out on December 16th, so should be a better one.
I have worked a lot with, which is the realistic vision. The current version is 6, and now we come to the settings of the detailer for animation.
It's very different than what he has.
We are using the same sampler method, which is also set as LCM. Additionally, I'm going to increase the sampling step slightly compared to the K sampler and CFG. I have set it to the LCM maximum, which is 2. Next, these are all the outcomes here. In this new workflow update, I have combined 3 videos at the top so that we can observe the different results and compare which one works best for our animation video. As you can see, the first one is this. The face appears somewhat blurry, and the hand also appears blurry. Now, let's move on to the second one. I see that the face appears clearer because I have specifically focused on enhancing the facial details in this video generation as compared to the same timing in the other video. As you can see, both videos are completely different. Here's the first one on the left. Additionally, you can observe the ultralatic detector provider, where you can select the model's name and see its capabilities. They offer options for focusing on the face, hand, or the entire person. Currently, I mostly use the face and person options for the majority of the time. And then you have the SAM loader in this group. Now this is another video generation result for the showcase. As you can see, here is the first video, and after applying the detailer, we have the second video playing here. Let me set the same frame here. There you go, it's clear. Now the last one is the face change effect after the detailer video process. If you don't want to use the face change effect and only want to add detail for a clear facial presentation, you can use just the detailer group here. Of course, the face change final output is the clearest one because we have a clear picture for each image frame for reference. You can see that the skin and clothing are more refined, the colors are enhanced, and the shadows have a sharper appearance. Everything has been optimized compared to the previous versions of this workflow, resulting in significant improvements. So right now I'm going to try the person detector. After applying the detailer, it will detect the entire person characters and enhance the overall appearance of the characters in the next generation video result. Let's click on run and wait for another outcome. We will observe the difference between using face or person detection.
It's cool how the colors and the
Here's the outcome for after applying the detailer for the person. As you can see, I'm using this option, and this is the same video as before. However, now we are not only optimizing the face, but also enhancing the color, sharpness, and overall appearance of the characters in these videos. As you can see, the sharpness of the character are clearly outperform from the previous version of this workflow. Even I have not defined much in the text prompt. Another update features in this workflow are the control net. One interesting thing I have noticed, and this was also brought up by one of my Patreon supporters, is that the control net open pose has some issues. It experiences a hang time while the workflow is loading in that part, and it causes the whole system feel like freeze temporarily, the workflow only holding on the open pose preprocessor for a while. I have acknowledged these issues, which are inherent to the open pose preprocessors. Although they are not major issues, they can be quite annoying, because you don't know if your system crushed or not, and open pose control net do not have any progress log in the command prompt, so I've switched to using the DW Post preprocessor. One significant advantage of DW Post, as many of us are aware, is that it outperforms the traditional open post in terms of finger and face recognition. In our previous videos, we discussed the DDW open post and conducted tests comparing it to the traditional open post. As a result, I decided to replace the open post control net sections with DW open pose. Furthermore, one notable feature is the ability to select different detector models. Take a look at this drop-down menu where you can try out various options and determine which one works best for your needs. Now, let's test the new DW pose with another set of animated videos. In the text prompt or pretext areas, I have defined the Christmas atmosphere videos. Let's proceed and evaluate the performance of DW Post. So right now, the latent image just started and it goes to line art control net. Then let's wait for the result soon. As we can see, the command prompt is highly responsive compared to the open post, which often freezes for extended periods of time. In contrast, the DW pose loads quickly, significantly reducing processing time. Currently, the data is being processed through the case sampler, working on generating each image frame. Although the overall process may still take around 15 minutes, it is much more efficient compared to the open post, which could take up to 10 or 15 minutes just at the hanging section, especially when dealing with over 700 image frames. Let's review the results. This is the first outcome, and it includes all generations. I'm using the LCM LoRa model, which provides less detail. However, we can enhance it using the detailer by setting higher sampling steps and CFG. Okay, let's wait for the face change result as well. Here's the face change result. As expected, the face change result is the best among the 3 options. It utilizes the image or picture of the characters to generate each face frame, resulting in clear, sharp, and well-colored faces. Let's preview the full picture. However, the detailer is working better now. I'm currently using the person detailer. Let's use these 2 pictures as our next example. In the previous video, we tested with the DreamShaper LCM model, and here are the results. We used the same videos to generate animations, but enabled the IP adapter using DreamShaper's iconic style image for this example. It's all golden style now, and the DreamShaper style outfit. And here, I want to show you some previous result when and testing with detailer nodes. As you can see, if you don't set the sampling method to be the same as the K sampler, the results can be less desirable, as shown in these bad examples. So it's important to ensure consistency in the sampling method, and you need to set higher sampling steps in detailer group if you are using LCM. Here's another example of video animations that I created with the new version of this workflow. When using the DW pose, it's evident that the AI detects the fingers, facial expressions, and the movements of every part of the body, including the hands. The output is clear and detailed. This concludes the update for this workflow, and I will be updating it on our Patreon community and the OpenArt Comfyui workflow contest page. You will be able to download it from OpenArt as well as my Patreon. But of course, in my Patreon, I will be able to do further support and update more AI stuffs. So, hope you guys like this workflow update, but not subscribed yet. Well, don't be a jerk and just do it. Yes, thank you for my supporter in Patreon. You guys are awesome. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great weekend and keep inspiring. Bye!
I will see how it goes, but I think he's done a good job. Halfway. Loading one new model. Oh, come on. Where is the output going? Output. Output video? Rid of 168 at the beginning of this video, and I'm at 36 right now, so at least that's a good drop. Nice little video. Well, I think part of the reason why I do these videos is to show people that it's not so easy. We're talking about how long now for a stream? 3 hours? 2 hours? Can't believe I nearly turned off the whole bloody thing. $3. It's just come up on 3 hours. And we haven't got one 15-second video made. So when you see a YouTube video from me, know that I put in a lot of time. And I still came up with something that was probably shit. That's a me thing. In reality, more US aid for Ukraine. In response to Trump's racist talks in CNN. Previous lunar missions have been able to target and reach specific zones that spanned many kilometers, but the SLIM lander will target a landing site that stretches just 100 meters. The lander's smart eyes and image matching based navigation technology would rapidly photograph the lunar surface on approach and autonomously make adjustments as the spacecraft descends for a more precise touchdown. Aw. That's sad. the fact that it's a 9-month cruise, you go on and then you end up with the baby at the end. That's just what I thought. Best red carpet looks for Brampton. That's fucked up. Come on, 79%. If it goes on to Model 2 to load, I'm going to go to bed. I didn't do any checks beforehand to see if the model or the pictures were too big, so that could be another issue as well. That's the format. What's the name? Come on. 2 more minutes. Almost there, guys. Don't tell me you're loading a new model. Okay, if this is loading a new model, I'm done. Oh, I don't. Yeah. And I'll just look at request to load and auto encoder. Okay, that's me, guys. I'm off to bed. Just checking the output. Ooh, there we go. Hey, that's actually kind of cool. Considering that I didn't have everything working correctly. Where's the file downloaded to? Tim? Ah, that's funny. Oh, might as well upload that. Okay, thank you. I think because I put explosions in the background, I didn't read any of the prompts that I gave it. But not the same moment, of course, at all, but kind of halfway between both. Or her clothes, but explosions. Cool. Huh. I did it.